Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast and our review of Royal Ascot 2025. It is great to have your company. Thank you so much for all the support in the preview shows. Hopefully you were well rewarded with a few winners. You might have been taking some money from our first guest on the show. It's our favourite bookmaker, Gary Wiltshire, is back. Hello, Gary.
Yeah, good evening, Emmet. Good evening, all. I'm at live. I'm in Royal Berkshire, but not at Ascot. We're at Windsor tonight. So we've just got a result there. We've just got a favourite turned over. 6 to 4 to 4 to 5. They wanted to play the boys and they've done their absolute. So who needs Royal Ascot when we've got Windsor?
The show never stops, Gary. How was Ascot week for you?
Well, funny enough, where I am, where my pitch is, I'm only there for the residents of Ascot. They've got a little square in the middle of the track, and you don't have to buy a ticket to get. And it's just one of them places where, like, it's very small bets, $2.50 each way. But I would have thought on Saturday we had about 600 people there, and they're all residents. They all bring me sausage rolls, Cornish pasties, Scotch eggs, egg and tomato sandwiches. Honestly, it's different class. I come out there, I must put on 2 stone on Royal Ascot Saturday. It's so much fun, and that's what the game's all about. All the big bets you read about in the paper, all the 400 grand and 200 grand. Where we are, we never see it, Emmet. We see the 250 each ways. My pal Pete out, and he was in the silver ring now, and he said the average bet was about £7 a slip. So, you know, all them big, massive punters, we never see them where we are. But what a week we've had. We loved it.
So I didn't see any of ITV's coverage because I was on air on TalkSport all week. So I was watching the bookmaker feed basically. But I did hear people telling me that they were really bigging up. Oh, this guy's had 50 grand on, and this guy's had 100 grand on. Like, did you hear? Was that actually going on?
Well, where we are, we can't hear anyway because, like, we're in the middle. But look, there is big punters about. Don't get me wrong. You do see the big punters, and they find the big bookies. AK there on the lower rail. You had Star Sports where they bets massive bet. We've even got Rob Waterhouse now, the Australian bookies come up. Look, Emmet, there is big bookies there at Ascot like there is in any ring in Ireland as well. But we never see them. You know, to people are reading it and think, you know, a few of my mates text me and run me up Saturday night, oh, you've had it bang off and all that with them results. They don't know that when people are having £2.50 each way horses, they don't back favourites. They back 20 to 1 chances. You know, it's not all about big bookies, Ascot. But I'll tell you what, Emmet, there was plenty of atmosphere there, and not at Cheltenham this year. I know we done a programme after Cheltenham and even Epsom. The Epsom was so disappointing. But at Ascot this year, the people that were there, they went out to enjoy themselves, and that's what the game's all about. But all them big bets, we never see anywhere we were. And I'll be true to them, I don't even want to see them to where we are because we go there to get a week's work. We've just booked up the 10 days in Benidorm, end of October, and it's down to the residents of Ascot. So, we'll be going in Uncle Ped's and we'll be having a sing-song and thinking of all them sing-songs Ascot week.
So the bookmakers then who are giving it the whole, oh no, we got bowled over, we got destroyed. Are you buying any of that narrative?
No, I'm not. I'll be true to that. Emmet, you know bookies, they scream for a living, don't they? You know what I mean? You know, there's not a game where we can go out in the morning and we can come back at night with less money than we went out with. But that's what bookmaking's all about, isn't it? And, you know, look, there was a few losers there, I should imagine, but I fancy there'd be more winners than losers. And as I said, it was a great atmosphere. Well, I'll tell you what, I wish Ascot was on every week because, you know, we had a bit of fun as well with our money. It ain't all about winning or losing. I said Saturday night on the Twitter, you know, I said, I'm not being funny, win, lose or draw. It's lovely. When the king comes along in them carriages, you know, you feel proud to be British, if to be true to them, you know, and everyone's singing and, you know, and when the king comes by, God save our king and that. And that's what the game's all about, you know. It's not all about money. You know my saying, money can't buy love, Emmet, as we all know,
Yeah.
You know. If we've lost, you know, members of our family and different things, we'll give £1 million to bring them back. And
Absolutely.
This bookmaking game, it ain't all about money. It ain't for me. It never has been, is it?
Yeah, the pomp and circumstance, it's a bit much for some people. I really like it. I get quite emotional during it as well for some reason. I don't quite know. I'm Irish. I shouldn't be, but I do. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a West Brit in disguise. What was the big horse you wanted to take on during the week?
I'll be true to where we are. We want every favourite to win because, like, you know, the small stakes, you're going to take, like, you might take 100 bets a race, you know, as I said, most of it is small each way money. But for the big bet, I thought the Field of Gold, I thought that was fantastic when that won. And all the punters, given their due the last race, I think they was all chasing on Saturday, but they all went to Willie Mullins horse in the last race, Ryan Moore. And they never, they put up the first show, I think it went to 11 to 10 at some stage in the ring. And the last show, I think, was 4 to 5. And the cheer that went up there for the last winner, that was as big as the Gold Cup winner. And there was absolutely, honestly, bangers and mash. You've never seen pounds, shillings and pence for that last winner. On the whole, what would you say? The bookies, the punters? I think the bookies have, the normal bookies would have won a little bit, Emmet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But there'd be no big numbers, Look, the big boys who wanted to take the big punters on, you read it online, I think they've done their money. Very bad week, but the little punters like that. But I'll tell you what, you got a bookie up there, up your way, Anthony Kaminsky, Bet Traders 8K. He put on his blog on Friday night, he was eating at the Fat Duck restaurant. Now, the Fat Duck restaurant is in Bray, near Windsor. I swear to you, to have a meal in there, it's got to be a minimum of £300 a head. It's a 3-star, it's a 3-star Michelin star, right? And the funniest part about it was, he was in the Fat Duck, right? And opposite, there's a pub called the Iron Dead, which is still owned by the same people who own the Fat Duck. But the difference is where we are, like the meals, even the desserts, when they do they do like a bag of sweets, I think he had, Anthony, like 8K. But we get the Misfits, the Misfits of the chocolate in it where we went. And we was in there, I think our one come to about 60 quid a head. He was about 300, 3.5 a head. And they say bookies ain't got no money in Ireland. For a Michelin star, the Fat Duck, 8K, and he was in there Friday night. But it was a great night all round. Everyone enjoyed themselves out.
Well, there'd be no more poor mouth stories from AK, so.
No, when you get him on him, you've got to say to him, what's this all about? You were thinking in a free Michelin guide, a 3-star. I think there's only an handful of them in the country.
Yeah.
And he found it to eat. And every time you speak to him, he's screaming, I've laid this, I've laid that, I've laid that. But if you want to eat in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, you've got to find it from somewhere. And we ain't got no trees over here that you can get the money of them.
Yeah, he was giving it the whole, oh no, Field of Gold, oh no. He was doing all right for himself. Lizzie Kelly was telling us I was listening to, as I was getting ready for TalkSport 2, the preview show with Rupert. And Lizzie and Rupert were talking about this restaurant in Ascot that were charging £3,500 a head for dinner, which people had paid for and then weren't turning up to. Imagine having that kind of cash that you can just throw away $3,500 on a meal you don't actually turn up to. Who the hell pays $3,500 for dinner, by the way?
Exactly. On Saturday night, we was driving home, and it was funny because I said to Sharon, she said, where are we eating tonight? I said, one thing we're doing, we're not eating in a restaurant. And we found a fish and chip shop. We had a nice bit of haddock and chips each on the way home. And I'll tell you what, I enjoyed that haddock and chips as much as you would in that place opposite the Fat Duck where they all went, the Hind Head. But look, don't get me wrong. Look, if you're playing for big numbers, why not don't let your belly know you're losing, you know what I mean? If you want to play like that, eat like that. But don't scream when Fields of Gold win and when the last favourite win. You heard them all screaming. They weren't screaming when they was eating in that 3-star Michelin restaurant, I'm going to tell you.
All right, couple of horses to ask you about before, because I know you're going to be taking bets on the next race. You need to get back to that at lovely Windsor.
It's going to take us 10 minutes to count what we just won on that race.
Happy days!
I'm going to get like them big boys, and I'm going to get like them. Good.
You're going to be back in that 3-star restaurant yourself tonight.
No, don't worry.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Shadow of Light, massive favourite. So when he gets beaten, is that a good result or a bad result for you?
I'll be true, but where we was on the weekend, it made it, honestly, we've got all the small punters playing with us. I don't think we've seen £100 bet all day. It was all real small bets. But don't forget, the bit where we are, you can't buy a ticket to come in. You've got to be a resident of Ascot. Now, I think it's a good idea because when the Queen was alive, she always designated like an area for the residents of Ascot. Because don't forget, you imagine all the people that come into Royal Ascot Week, the shops and that and different things. But it's a great atmosphere, Emmet, honestly. It is a fantastic atmosphere. And please God, to the day I die, I'd love to be there and part of it. And, it's just part of the atmosphere. It's another Cheltenham. to me, in England, you've got Cheltenham Festival, you've got Royal Ascot. The Derby this year, as I said, no atmosphere whatsoever. My mate sponsored it, Betfred, didn't he? Fred Dunn, he's a classic bookie here. He's pulled up all the money here to sponsor these big races. There's not many big English bookmakers, Emmett, who want to sponsor big races anymore like Fred has. Without him, we'll be gone. And, but it was a great atmosphere. And I know your little... The only thing is, there was a punter who come in our little bit and he listens to your final Furlong podcast, right? And he must have backed every day about 3 or 4 winners. So someone was giving him a bit of info. No, don't put your arms up, Emmett. No, please. You've got to think of us. You've got to think of us, not you putting your arms up. But honestly, he's backed a few winners and they were big prices as well. He put one up. I think he had a tenner each way one. I said, how did you find that out? He said, I listened to the final Furlong podcast. So, but look, fantastic. Great what you've done. I've got to go now because we need a few. But lovely speaking to you again. And to bring back what we had last week, Royal Ascot, it was fantastic.
Gary, tell me about the book. Where can people get your book?
It's sold out, Emmet. Paul Jones ain't listening to that. Sold out. He'll print another 1,000, won't he? You know where to go online, Weatherby's, 50 years in the betting jungle. But look, forget about the book. We're talking about Royal Ascot. I've loved it. You've loved it. And you've even booked back a few memories from last week as well. So, and we just got that favourite beat in the last race here. And
do you know what the great thing about a digital book is? You can't sell them out. You can sell as many of the digital copies of 50 Years in the Betting Jungle as you absolutely want. But if you want those hard copies, you got to talk to Gary himself. Gary, best of luck. I shouldn't really be wishing the bookmaker the best of luck, but we'll wish you the best of luck. Everyone. Good luck, Gary. Take care. Gary Wiltshire, live from Windsor on the Final Furlong podcast. Let's bring in full team coverage for a review of Royal Ascot 2025. We've got Laura Joy, Adam Mills and George Gorman here. We will kick it off with probably the best performance of the week. Your mileage may vary on this, but I thought Field of Gold was absolutely stunning and I was completely against him and horribly wrong. It was a huge week for John and Thady Gosden. They were crowned leading trainers after 5 wins. They both, with Aidan O'Brien, had the 5 wins, but they had bigger runners up on countback. And they win the 3 feature Group 1s on the first 3 days of racing. It was a sensational week for them. Field of Gold is the one who kicked it off, Laura, and he's every bit the star they were saying he is.
Yeah, he is. It was a remarkable performance. It's what we all want to see, isn't it? What you go to see. You want to see something spectacular. He's threatened to do it before. He threatened to do it in the Guineas at Newmarket. It didn't work out. He's done it in the Irish Guineas, but people were poking holes. The form wasn't, or the strength and depth wasn't there in the race, but the right 3 showed up to take him on. We all dream of the 3 Guineas winners showing up, and there they were. And yeah, they finished in. He's the superstar we've been looking for.
The division needs it, Adam. It needs him. I don't really want to see him go up to 10 furlongs yet, and I think John Gosden has no intention of doing that. They're probably going to do it for the Jumpment International just because the owners want it. But he's a miler, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't really seen any evidence to it. Really, race last week, the sectional times didn't work. Whereas the St James's Palace, which is a bit of a shame because we haven't got the direct comparison. But the overall time looks pretty good. The bit they've cobbled together from the data looks pretty good. Just why would you? I understand they want to run in the Jumpment International, but why not just stick it a mile?
Yeah.
Because what horse is going to beat him over a mile? Look at how bad the Queen Anne was, which we'll probably come to a bit later. He's just going to walk this division with a 3-year-old allowance. I really don't see any reason. I mean, if he turns up in the Sussex Stakes, he's got to be 2 to 5. So it looks like there's a nice logical progression through the season. Maybe go up to 10 for the Judgment International because it will scare a lot of the opposition off anyway. And then you can always come back to a mile. But I mean, he's just in a different league to every other miler.
They can always go up to 10 furlongs next season, although maybe it's a bit wishful to be saying they're going to keep this horse going as a 4-year-old. I really hope they do because he's that good. You want to see more of him. To put some context on it, Racing Post Ratings has been in action since 1991, and they rate him the best ever winner of the St James's Palace Stakes. Better than Kingman, better than Rock of Gibraltar, Henry the Navigator, and Shamadal. Timeform's reaction was to say he is either on par or better than the 3 horses I just mentioned. Does that make sense to you, Adam?
Well, kind of. I mean, I can see how you get that reasoning. I mean, my argument would be, Frankel St James's Palace is probably something we shouldn't really be talking about the way it panned out. So maybe, his Field of Gold better than Frankel, definitely not in my opinion. I'd also, I guess, Thank goodness we had Field of Gold in the St James's Palace, because otherwise it's worked out to be a bad race. And a really good friend of mine texted me yesterday and said, I told you the French Colts form was rubbish. And it suddenly dawned on me, actually, yeah, Henri Matisse, he ran all right, but he was nowhere near in the same league as Field of Gold. Ruling Court didn't run very well. I mean, look, Field of Gold can only win it as he does, and he gets Colin Keane out of trouble. Is it the greatest performance of the St James's Palace? I think I'd have it slightly low. I personally felt Kingman and Dawn Approach and that era probably achieved a little bit more, but maybe it was just because the division was deeper. Ultimately, we don't really know how good Field of Gold is. The one question we can all ask now, which I think is fair, is how did this horse get beat in the Guineas?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I mean, that is the question, George. Like that is... Yeah. Well, listen, Kieran gave an interview to TalkSport that's one of the best interviews I've heard. His girlfriend, Sophie, was part of it as well. And she talked about the mental turmoil that he's been under. And he said, nobody wants to feel sorry for you. They just want to see you pick yourself back up, go out and perform at your best. And that's what I've done. And that was after he'd only won one race. I'm delighted for Colin Keane that he's given this horse a great ride. And I thought he did give him a good ride. People will say, I could have won on him. I don't think so. He needed a good ride. He got it. He's by far the best horse in the division. But Colin Keane walks away with one win from Royal Ascot. Kieran Schumacher walks away with two. And well done to him, I would say. And there'll be more big race wins to come. I do feel, George, and maybe maybe I was banging my head off the table today. Ruling Court's a little bit unlucky. Not in the sense that there's no way he wins the race, but he could easily have been second. And there was a couple of horses for Buick this week. Like, he got very lucky with Ombudsman. He didn't get at all lucky with Notable Speech. We'll talk about him later on. He dropped the whip on him. But Ruling Court got no run whatsoever, and he fought him for a long way.
Yeah, there's a temptation with to go, every time he runs, the ride in the Guineas looks worse and worse. But you also got to still bear in mind, like, Gosden hasn't won the Guineas. And, like, the same with, you go, how the hell's Lake Victoria got beaten 1,000 Guineas? So these horses are trained to peak now, not at the Guineas.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason Gosden hasn't won it. Cercene, Aidan doesn't win them anymore, is because they're being aimed to peak here. So Field of Gold, don't get it wrong, is a much better horse than he was at the Guineas. For all that he didn't get the best ride. Jesus, if he had turned up to the Guineas in that form, Kieran Schumacher would have had to have jumped off the back of him to have stopped him winning. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, there are jockeys equipped for that, allegedly. Allegedly.
Yeah. I'd moved on from that incident and didn't think before I spoke. But look, on Henri Matisse, and then, like, because of that, I'm not surprised. Ruling Courts essentially got and done the same as what Notable Speech did in this race last year. They're trained to peak for the Guineas, and it's hard to get them back again. The only extra thing with Ruling Court was he was trained for a derby in between that he didn't run it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you can put it down as a slight underperformance by him. Like, I think it was a bit too bad to be true. As for a few of Charlie Appleby's this week. I was of the opinion beforehand as well. Henri Matisse, for all that he has been trained to peak here, everything was run to suit in that French Guineas. Like, he had a pacemaker there dragging him along. What more could they have done for him here to improve him, bar his sort of natural fitness progression? Because he was just going to have the same strong gallop to run out again. Whereas Field of Gold, everything didn't go right for him in the Irish Guineas, and he was still excellent. So with a stronger pace to run out, he was only going to be better. And this is all easy to say of hindsight, but we said it all on here as well. Like, it's it's probably not the best St James's Palace in the world, but that's why he won it like he did.
Well, there's two ways of looking at Henri Matisse's form, Laura. You could take one look at it and go, okay, there's two winners have come out of the French 2000 Guineas. Camille Pizarro's won the French Derby. That's obviously great for him, but he was drawn wide, so he kind of had no chance in the 2000 Guineas. And the only other horse to come out and win it won a handicap. So it's rubbish. The other way of looking at it is, well, he murdered comfortably on his first run of the season when all of Aidan's horses were improving for the run or badly needed it. Arizona Blaze is trailing in his wake, and so is Comanche Brave, and those horses both go on to place at Royal Ascot. So what do you make of Henri Matisse?
I think the one thing about the French Guineas is they all finish very close to each other, and when that happens, it always raises a question mark, doesn't it? It was, he wasn't an impressive winner of the race. I think he's ran his race. To be honest, I think he's almost ran a career best here. Ruling Court's definitely not run to form. He never looked comfortable throughout the whole race, and I think that the people can underestimate how difficult it can be to train a horse for a race like the Derby and then change your mind like that. He also went to Epsom, like he travelled there on the day he was there, and then went home, and that's a big ask for any horse, especially a Breeze Up graduate as well. So I'd forgive Ruling Court. I think he is crying out for a mile and a quarter. Henri Matisse was an interesting horse in the paddock. He's a really big horse, real big, tall, strong, high withers. And so, yeah, I'm impressed that he actually has won his first 2 starts, like you say, especially when horses were all improving for a run. He looked like, I think he'll keep improving as the season goes on. And yeah, I do think that was a career best. Do I think he'll ever beat Field of Gold? Not on those performances. No, I think he'll keep bumping into him, but I'd imagine they won't. They'll try and avoid him with him now going forward.
If they can go to France for Group 1s, they can drop down to 7.5 for the Prix Maurice de Guise if they wanted. I would imagine that in the back of Aidan's mind is the Breeders' Cup Mile, but we're a long, long way away from that. But I would think that that's what they'll work back from, which Field of Gold may not go to. And then the other question I wanted to ask you before going to the others, Laura, is, isn't it remarkable how similar this fella is to his sire? Field of Gold, that is. And that John Gosden was saying this before Royal Ascot, that, well, he's very like his sire. And he is. He gets beaten in a Guineas that he shouldn't have been beaten in, and then just crushes everything. So is that what he's going to do now? Is he just going to dominate this division? Because Adam just made the point that he's should be 2-5 on the day for the Sussex Stakes, and I'd very much like your view on that price. We'll talk about Rosallion in a second. He's currently available at even money with a couple of firms. And the more I look at it, spoiler for our chat about the Queen Anne and the Coronation, what's going to beat him?
Well, it depends, obviously, a lot of the opposition. I wouldn't be as much in everyone's camp about how did he get beaten in the Guineas. I don't think he handled the track. I think Ruling Court, like George said, he was primed for the day. And yeah, a weak Craven, and Guineas trials winners, Craven winners, how many of them?
And in the Craven, they've gone a proper gallop. They've tried to quicken going into the dip in the Guineas, which is where he's got completely lost at sea, isn't it? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was dominating in the Craven versus.
Sorry, Laura. I would love to know. I would love to know. We're never going to be told this, but I would love to know if Kieran was writing to instructions, and then got thrown under the bus. Because it's such a weird thing to do. I know he had to get him to settle, but it's weird to ask him to quicken going downhill in the dip. And Buick had asked.
He was reacting to what the others were doing.
But Buick was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's strange. So anyway, maybe he was thrown under the bus.
No, I have sympathy for him. I think because I was watching it, and I think I said this before, in real time, my reaction, I like to stick with that and then use the data after. And in real time watching it, I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to see something amazing here. And then it just didn't come. Kieran was feeling like something amazing was going to come, and then it just didn't happen. And then he pressed the panic button, we'll say, and was thinking, oh God, I've messed it up. But so I just don't think Field of Gold was whether he was too immature at that stage. I don't know whether he just didn't show up for whatever reason, but he is very like his sire. He's actually more tractable than his sire, isn't he? He's got a nicer, not nicer temperament, but he's easier. He seems a little bit more chilled out than Kingman, which is great going forward. And the mile and a quarter probably is well within his remit. And I'd say, as you say, the Juddmonte International is going to be high on their list for him.
It's funny how we can watch the same race and have radically different ideas. And I really like Kieran Schumacher. I'm a fan of Kieran Schumacher's. It was a bad ride. But I will replicate for you what it was like watching the 2000 Guineas with me. I was in a pub. Shout out to the Corner House. Shout out Paul Campion. Shout out the Barrel. They were on either side of me. I backed expanded, so my money's down the drain. So I have no dog in this fight. But one of them said, and I quote, "What is that gobshite doing?" And the other one said, "Jesus Christ, he hasn't bet." And that was at halfway. They were able to go, "Oh no, he's beaten." It's like, why is he not just going? So it's funny how we can all watch the same race and have a radically different. By the way, they'd punted the 2 ears off him. Adam, Ruling Court's going to be trained for the Juveniles International. Is there a chance that over 10 furlongs, that's where he can level the playing field and turn the results back on him again? No, I can't be having that. Not. It's not like Ruling Court was flying at the finish and we're all going, "Oh, look at him staying." I can't. No. Can't be having that. And actually, if you take Field of Gold out of that 2000 Guineas, the form is not great. It's terrible.
Shadow of Light didn't do a great deal for it. The start got him behind. I think I'd be very surprised if they take on Field of Gold in the Jumbo International. That to me looks a mistake. Why don't you just go where Field of Gold doesn't? And one of my favourite Cliff horses is almost certainly going to have another crack at the Jumbo International, and I'm sure Calandagan won't go by Field of Gold either. But it kind of, I would be disappointed if Calandagan can't beat Ruling Court. So I think when the cold light of day get over and look at this and think we're not going to get near this thing. And if John Gosden's like, we're going to Juddmonte, then that leaves plenty of races open for Charlie Appleby to think, right, we can go somewhere else.
Yeah, Irish Champion Stakes will be there, assuming Field of Gold doesn't go for that race. Although Coolmore will have a strong hand in that race between now and then.
I'd say for my money, there is one horse that could get closer to him, but I don't think, because they're in the same colours, is Charlton horse, Cosmic Year. He gave him first run in the Irish Guineas, and he was having his 4th career start compared to, Field of Gold's 7th?
Yeah.
He gave him first run there, and he got no further behind. Like, he's been a bit of a forgotten horse. He hasn't run since then. I don't know what's going on with him, but odds are they won't be allowed to take each other on. But if there's anything that maybe I'd take a swing on, like, you should get a good each way price. If they were to meet at Goodwood, or though even if they dropped him back in trip, they've got that Group 1 at York now, haven't they? If they'd sided against the International. But if they were both to line up against each other, I think at the prices, I'd probably be inclined to have a swing at Cosmic Year. I just don't think there's not been a lot of talk about him. We've sort of forgotten about him very quickly when he was the winter not the winter favourite. He was brief favourite for the Guineas before they decided not to run him in there. And he won that listed race as he liked, and he ran an absolute blinder. Like I say, it was his 4th ever run, first go in group company. I think, Field of Gold must have had about 5 runs in group races by then. Continue to improve and get to him. And it's another Kingman, so I imagine they won't be too bothered. But I just think we shouldn't be forgetting about that horse just yet.
Yeah, it was strange they didn't go for the jersey. I'm guessing ground was the issue for him. But
He's
he did
20
finish in front
for the Sussex Stakes.
Yeah, he did finish in front of a Group 1 juvenile winner. Let's not get too carried away now, George. The Sussex Stakes is going to Field of Gold. Don't waste your money. Any other notes before we switch from the St. James's Palace Stakes, Laura?
Well, just on the Guineas form, I think you were being a little bit harsh to say it's rubbish. I think Shadow of Light has just completely ran in the wrong race. So that was just never going to... I mean, the only reason he's gone there is because Ruling Courts missed the Derby. And Tornado Alert ran a really good race as well. He was 6th in the Derby as a non-stayer, and then he's come and finished 2nd as well. In the King Edward, I think it was. So.
There's 2 horses. The rest
That's
of them
all that matters.
Yeah.
Everything else down the field, like, they're irrelevant. You know, they're however many lengths behind, but they're the ones that got close. So
yeah,
I'm not.
The rest of them are draws and could be pulling milk carts sooner rather than later. Adam?
No, not a lot to take from this race.
Didn't Wimbledon Hawkeye run well as well? Like,
Jesus,
in the jersey.
He's no trip, man. There's no
he finished 3rd. And I tell you what, he had his nose in the air trying not to run all the way up the straight with first time cheapies on. So actually he's probably capable of finishing a lot closer.
He's a lovely horse.
Now.
He's a lovely horse, but he's got no trip.
I think he needs blinkers. And I'll back him with blinkers on next time out.
He might need a gelding operation as well. Coronation.
He might need both.
Yeah, he might need a bit of both, but you don't want to wish that on any poor old horse. Cercene. Oh, what a performance this was in the Coronation Stakes. The Gaffard, Adam, you're 100% right. What a class act he is. That interview he gave on ITV afterwards was sensational, and I really liked Her Highness Princess Zara the Aga Khan just going, she's like her grandmother. A bit nuts. That's exactly what she is. She should have won that race easily, Laura, but she's probably never going to win any race easily. That's just who she is.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do reach for some headgear. Look, she's a talent, and like they don't really care, do they? I mean, they want their winning photo, but they don't seem too fussed. She's earned her place at stud, as they said, and what an amazing result for the Murphys. That was fantastic. You can't. Not one person in Ireland, bar maybe people who punt seriously potentially, but nobody else that didn't have a financial interest in the race would begrudge them winning that race. They're just the loveliest people, and it was fantastic. Yeah. Really, really good result.
Well, I was delighted. I was talking them up on TalkSport afterwards, but in the back of my mind, George, I was just going, how did I not have like even just a small each way bet after what George had said about her? You talked her up so much, George. Take a bow.
Yeah, no, this was the one where I felt really bad about putting up 3 selections in the race, wasn't it? And I was like, I can't not have Cathedral on side, and I can't not have Cercene on side. But the sort of main play was exactly. And I was sort of trying to talk my way out of it on the air about going, I know, I shouldn't have 3 selections.
And my main play was January, and I was trying to get it across to you that Exactly's got no chance, but we were, dearie me.
And you were right on that one, in fairness. But look where the horses that were up with the pace finished. Like, Cercene makes a lot of ground to get handy, and is the only one that lasts home. Like, Exactly, he's probably the best of the rest. Got beat 5.5 lengths. Falakaya was obviously far too keen, but Falakaya and Duty First fell out the back of the TV. How well was Cercene? I know Anna should have gone by, could have gone by, but the fact she gave her something to even, think about from how fast she had gone for the majority of the race, having missed the break completely. It's a really tough performance from this mare. I've got to say, I wasn't quite expecting anything like that. I thought it'd be nice if we could nab a win, but I wasn't expecting to put in quite such a big performance. But Ryan obviously got it right with January as well. I'll learn one day that Ryan's right, I'm wrong.
Oh, mate, I still managed to fool myself into thinking that Lord Canula filly had a chance and backed against Ryan. And who was the other one? There was against Garden of Eden, and there was another horse as well that I backed against him, where it was just so blindingly obvious that he was on the right one. It's like, remember, Ryan knows best.
And it's just a small shout for Cathedral as well. Like on her second start last season, she was dropped into Group 3 company in the Oh So Sharp, split Merrily and Flight. Had a little comeback run this year in that race at Lingfield. I think threw up a load of winners, didn't it? Jabara, Spiritual, Ziggy's Dream, Fair Angelica, all won since. And then on start manages to run into a decent fourth in Group 1 company. So that's definitely a horse to have on side going forward. A little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for those owners, perhaps, after the week they had. But there's not much to be said about Zarigana at this point, is there? I actually met the groom the night before, and they're all going, "Oh, she wins," and I was just going, "Yeah." Okay, they were. I did run into them at the bar in the Stable Lads canteen, I will say, and anything I could decipher was in French. I didn't speak any English, but it was not nice group of lads. I'm sure they did say it's the hardest place to have winners. Like they were like, if it was in France, she wins. Here, it's very hard, was what they said, I think.
Well, when she came barreling down the straight with that thundering run at him, were you saying, "Oh, she's going to win"?
Yeah, I thought she'd win. I mean, look, it is what it is with her. She's, I guess, the phrase "something always happens with Zarigana" has now gone from being coincidence to being a pattern. And if it's a pattern, it's always a bit of a worry. But she's clearly an extremely talented filly who just is a bit nuts. And, she's kind of started she does win races, but if anything, it gives forgiveness to big girl Barcelona. Actually, having seen that, I could be, okay, right, now I get it, Mickey. This is why you've been riding her this way. But she's not done a great deal wrong other than in the last 50 yards where she's got in front and doesn't want to be there. They might try for headgear. I think slightly softer ground will probably help her as well. She didn't look like she let herself down, but the way I approached analysing this race, rather than just thinking about what might have been, is to just imagine if Zarigana's not in this race, the winner, Cercene, has produced a ridiculous performance. Those that went off to set the pace, Falakaya, Duty First, they've all taken less than 5.5 seconds to reach 30 miles an hour. They've blown the lead. It's gone really fast. Now, when fillies do that, almost certainly you can look at the data and know they'll be out the back of the telly because they use so much energy in that opening furlong, they just won't get home. So for Cercene to be ridden up by Gary Carroll to get back into the prominent position, get headed and then get back up, regardless of what Zarigana does, Cercene hits the line really well. This is like a serious performance. It would be a real mistake to think Zarigana entirely threw this race away. She did, but Cercene has still produced a real Group 1 performance. This won't be the last time that she's competitive in a Group 1. And she's beaten everything else hands down.
Yeah.
Absolutely hands down. And if this by Aiden, there'd be talk of, oh, this is the second coming and she's minding 2.0. Because she's trained by Joseph Murphy, it's kind of a little bit lost in that, and it's a great story, but I would not want to lay Cercene at any point this season because she is so tough. So tough. Doesn't know when she's beaten. To get in that kind of prominent position, that close to that pace, and still have something left for the finish, whoa. That's a serious, serious performance. And kind of when I looked at the data, I actually ignore my emotional investment in Zarigana, not to mention the fact there's a picture of Zarigana coming to go on this wall somewhere down here where the camera can't see it. But, that's life.
Is she wearing blinkers in that photo?
Yeah. I
tell you, my first thought when they crossed the line was she actually finished closer when Barcelona lost his stick.
Well,
I think he might have been better off putting it down.
She's just quirky, and he's still the difficulty. I think for Barcelona is he's riding at the 2 furlong pole, thinking, "My God, this thing underneath me is absolutely tanking," and he does everything right. He hits the front of the furlong pole, and here we go. And Ruby Walsh did a great analysis. He's like, the minute she's half a length up, that's it.
Yeah.
He's in the air, the change of her lead leg. She doesn't want to do it. It could be the ground. I think it's more just Zarigana. I think that's just what she's like. Now, what I do take exception to is this gibberish of, she wouldn't have gone by in the French 1000. Now, that's really, they lost all sympathy because they seem to have forgotten that in the trial for the French Guineas, the Prix Le Gros, Zarigana went straight past. She's perfect. So, I'm not having that gibberish. It's just a simple fact with Zarigana that she's got her own ideas about the game. She needs an exceptionally cute ride. Mickey Barcelona's doing a fantastic job with the Aga Khan job. It needs a Jamie Spencer ride. That's what she needs. Just absolutely soft hands, don't move. Let her get there in her own time. And what they've got to, and I'm sure they will accept, is there's going to be times when she's going to get chinned because she just won't get there the fractions right. But there are loads of Group 1 races. And you're quite right, Emmett. Francis Henri Graffard is an absolute gentleman. To handle that, and I'll be careful what I say about French trainers because I like them a lot. If you saw the way a certain trainer handled another Group 1 ride compared to how Francis Henri Graffard handled this Group 1 ride, chalk and cheese, and fair play to connections, and I will happily back Zarigana, although it'll probably be in a reverse forecast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Flavien Prat, special guest on the show. Yeah,
because there's while Basher Watts is great for the sport and everything, like or whatever his name is. The implication that she should have won the steward's inquiry because Zarigana wouldn't have gone by anyway. Can you imagine how that would have gone down with the owners? They got into the steward's room. And the French steward just out there, like put out their cigarette and go, she wouldn't have gone past anyway. She's a pig. You're not allowed to take that into consideration. Like. They got. You can't turn around you and go, your horse is a pig. Unfortunately, that's not quite how things work, mate. But yeah.
Your dramatic recreation was way better than mine, George. With a way more accurate accent as well, for that matter. That's not what the stewards would have been saying. That's not what the stewards would have. But I would have loved to have seen that. Oh, why couldn't we get the video of that like like we do in Britain? That would have been hilarious.
The French steward's inquiry videos is just a low fog of smoke in the room, and it's just like a few dirty wine glasses around the place.
You never go past. But now we know why Barcelona was riding her that way. That's why he gave her that ride in the French 1000 Guineas, because it has to be fast and as late as possible. So no more criticism for Miguel Barcelona. The nickname is withdrawn and will be given to somebody else later on in the show. Field of Gold and Cercene may very well be facing off with Docklands, Notable Speech, Rosallion. What do we make of the Queen Anne, though? First, second, third, fourth, and fifth all came from off the pace. Docklands has never been out of the first 3 in 7 starts at Ascot. He now has 2 Royal Ascot wins to his name, 3 Ascot wins in total. 2 of those wins are in handicap company, and now he's a Group 1 winner, Laura.
The whole thing was just a really unsatisfactory race, wasn't it? I'm delighted for Harry Eustace and his team, and the horse deserved it. But I don't know what Callum Shepherd was doing on Cudwell. Like, they went so slow. It was ridiculous. And like sitting there looking at it, you're watching it in real time, and you're like, what are you doing? You're even on a horse that probably gets him on the quarter,
Yeah.
It's just, it was wild. The whole thing was wild. there was, I'd say the only people happy after that race were Harry Eustace and his team. There wasn't one other connection of any horse that would have been satisfied. Well, actually, probably Alice Haynes and Cairo, to be fair, finishing third. He's stolen that and ran a blinder. But yeah, I mean, God, it's gutting. Like, the best horse didn't win, did it?
The first horse that I ruled out of having a chance in the race gets third. Jeez, that was really quite something from Alice Haynes.
Could be worse. I backed it at Epsom, and then it obviously didn't run. And for the exact, had all the same rationale going into Ascot. And I just went, God, it's a bit different from winning that race at Epsom. This though, I don't know if I can back him when they're the first four in the lock-in year.
But I mean, the horse who was
quid each way would have been fine.
Was he third in that race, Docklands? No, he was unlucky in the Diarmid. But the idea that he could step forward.
Oh no, I was talking about Cairo.
No, I know. But did Cairo was not running that race, wasn't he? In the Diarmid.
He was, yeah, he was, yeah.
So for Docklands to step forward from the Diarmid, which he was unlucky in, and then go and win the Queen Anne, we talked him up on the show. We had him for all the exotics. I said it on the American show. I said it on TalkSport. I didn't have him winning the race though, Adam. And I kind of feel sorry for the Gosdens. I mean, they weren't stuck for a winner this week. But what would Sardinian Warrior have done had he been in this race?
Well, I think Sardinian Warrior would have found it just as annoying as everybody else because they just went so slow. I mean, to put this into context, so the opening furlong, every horse in the field took more than 13 seconds for the opening furlong. In last year's race won by Charin, every horse in the field went sub 12 seconds. So if you run the two races side by side, there's like 8 lengths between them after a furlong and a half. It's absolutely madness. I mean, what we should say is Docklands is a very good horse, but this was like his 16th start. I don't think anyone for any moment suddenly thinks Docklands has found 10 pound of improvement. He's probably run to about his mark, 114. Really good ride by Mark Zara. Docklands had the longest stride length in the field. So if he doesn't go then, he's never going to get there. Really clever ability. And there are some other jockeys there who might be looking and thinking, how can someone who's never ridden Ascot before know that we're going too slow? And I've had 1,000 rides at Ascot and I haven't worked it out. You know, I think in another world, Rosallion and Notable Speech go by quite easily. But yeah, the way I kind of look at his form is think, yeah, well done, Docklands. Very good horse at Ascot. Plenty of options for him. I'm sure they'll be thinking about some day race. But those in behind, Rosallion should probably have won. I think he was probably just about the best horse. Notable Speech didn't get a run. Fair play to Cairo. It's a big run. But Lake Forest is the one that needs to be forgiven entirely. I know it's his first try at a mile. And we haven't really confirmed whether he stays a mile because they went ridiculously slow. But the problem for Lake Forest is Tom Marquand's at the back because he's thinking they're going to go hard. I need to ride my horse to finish. I don't know if he really stays this trip. Then they go slowly. Then the horses he's tracking as he's coming through, he tracks Carl Spackler, who's going backwards, and he's tracking Kudwa, who's going backwards. So the pace in front of him is collapsing, and he's tracking the wrong horses. So Lake Forest does make some good ground. He's the fastest horse after the line. So I'll definitely sort of forgive him next time. But, I mean, you know, fair play to Docklands. Great result for Harry Eustace. Great result for the jockey. Nice result for Connections. I think they've said they're going to Australia with the horse at some point. But as Queen Anne's go, I think this was a pretty average race. And I wouldn't want to trust this form at all.
So does he make any appeal to you, Docklands, then back for the QE2 at the end of the season?
What he might do, because his record at Ascot is so good. Absolutely so good. And, you know, who knows? In October, I doubt it'll be as quick as this was. So, but he's got such a good record at Ascot. You'd happily want to consider him at the time, but you couldn't look at this and say Docklands was definitely the best horse in the Queen Anne. There's no way my conclusion.
I'm in agreement with you. I think Rosallion was, and I still don't understand how he doesn't win, Laura. And there's a part of me is wondering, is that respiratory infection after taking something out of him a little bit more than his team suspected and that maybe we suspected, for that matter, because he hits the line very hard at the Curragh to beat Hatem, who goes on to win a listed race at Royal Ascot. He hits the line really hard to beat Henry Longfellow, who does nothing afterwards. And maybe it's a combination of the two things. Maybe he's not as good as we thought, or maybe that infection took more out of him, or maybe that was just a ridiculous race.
I think the style of the race just was completely not run to suit him. If you look back on most of his wins, he typically hits and it looks like he's in trouble when the pace starts to heat up, and the fractions say a similar enough story, him compared to Docklands. Just in that middle part, he's just that fraction bit slower, and that's why he's hitting the line as hard as he typically does. I think just the whole thing, the pace they went, when they quickened, it just all went against him, and it's almost, a mark of his ability that he actually still got so close to winning, when everything could have gone against him.
So Rosallion improves past his rivals from Newbury, which we expected, George. So does Notable Speech, but not enough. That being said, as Adam pointed out, he didn't get a clear run. Buick drops the whip. He suffers interference quite a bit. His connections say afterwards they want to come down in trip. They're going to go for the City of York Stakes over 7 furlongs. I can understand, and I can absolutely say, forgive him this run, he'll be better. But he's won 2 Group 1s. He's been beaten. He's run 7 Group 1s. He's won 2. He's placed once. He's failed to get a podium finish 4 times. Our excuse is just running out for him now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's not a horse I could have on my mind. I think the mere fact at this point that he's a Guineas winner is sort of informing the price in most of the races he runs in. It's just not one. Look, if you come around to the Sussex Stakes again, or like you said, he goes up in trip and he's a good price. The thing I don't like is last year I heard it on course blamed performance in St James's Palace was blamed on the fact that the ground was too quick for him. I think they might have said the same Shadow of Light this year. And then he goes to Goodwood and absolutely hoses in on firmer ground on a downhill track. Do you know what I'm like? Well, if that's the only excuse they can find at Ascot, we've now proven that wasn't the case. I just think we can't trust him particularly.
Yeah,
he's not run bad. He's not run bad, but even if he is putting it all in, maybe there's just always going to be one that's better. He's probably a Group 2 horse stuck in Group 1s. I would say it's probably the biggest problem with him. If I just make a point on the training performance with Docklands, I mentioned before, I've got in my notes here, basically not to worry about Epsom. So it was his first visit to the track. On his second start last season, he underperformed by £9 on RPRs from his first start to his second start. This year he did the same. He underperformed by £6. So I think the fact that a lot of people going, why have they gone to Epsom when he loves Ascot and it's only in a week and a half's time, whatever. I think they're sort of just desperate to get that sort of bounce away. And maybe he's always that thrives on his racing. It's just more that he having his third run of the season, he's just coming on. I thought it was certainly preferable to run him there at Epsom than it was last year to take him over to France for a listed race and then have all the travel involved with that. Although there was more of a gap between his races, it's probably more of an ordeal in general than just running him down to Epsom, having a run round, running him back up. It's one of a few very good training performances from Harry Eustace this year. And you'd have to say well done as well to, I think it must be his head girl who's helping with him, who a lot of you remember Laura Pike, used to ride herself on the flat. She was seen on his right-hand side leading him back in, and their winner later on in the week as well. Is obviously a big part of their operation there and a fantastic horsewoman.
Well said. They should have had 3 winners. Labat was... Excuse me. Oh, my God, that was sickening. Oh. Anyway, I don't think they'll be complaining. They had a great week, but gee, oh dear, that one hurt. Just before we go off of this, if he can come back 10 days after Epsom and win, why can Ruling Court not do the same, having not had a race, Laura? Or is it just the fact that Charlie had to get Ruling Court to be able to settle, and then within 10 days get him freshened back up and also teach him, I don't need you to settle now I need you to go because you're going to be racing back over a mile?
Well, they're both 2 different horses, aren't they? So you don't know what they're like, what their individual characteristics.
One's 3 and one's 5.
Yeah, and Dockland's got a lot more experience travelling. He's been all over the world, hasn't he? He's been to Australia.
Yep.
So
Somewhere Jim Bulger is listening to this going, well, I did it with Don Approach, and he got beaten in the Derby, and he still won at St. James's. So I don't know what the problem is. Send him to me, boys. I'll get a win for you.
How many winners has he had this season?
Anyway, moving swiftly. You broke up there, George. You'll have to speak up, George. You must be wearing a towel, as Homer Simpson would say. Are we all agreed that Rosallion is the horse we'd take out of that race?
Yeah.
To win a Group 1 this season, I should say.
No.
If Field of Gold's not there.
Is Lake Forest the one you would take out, Adam?
Well, I think I'm more interested in Lake Forest than Rosallion. because Rosallion's going to race over a mile, so he's going to bump in the field of gold. They'll have to place him very carefully. The only thing I'd say is the race, but I'd also think, surely we'd all think Rosallion is better than Docklands. If Rosallion was racing closer to the stand start, no, I can't. I don't know. I'm just a little bit sort of like, could you not chin Docklands? Surely you'd think Rosallion would come on to that. And the difficulty for Rosallion, he's got a mile. So what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? If they go to Sussex Stakes, they're going to lock heads with.
Well, that was my question. If we're all going to take Rosallion out of it, does he have any hope in hell of beating Field of Gold at all?
The Goodwood marketing team are listening. They need to call it the Jewel on the Downs again for the 5th year in a row. Let's not say that he can't win. There has to be 2 credible candidates so that they can go, it's the Jewel on the Downs, as if it hasn't happened.
We can do we can do a whole podcast promoting it for them with Goodwood. I know some of the team there. We can do the Jewel on the Downs. We can interview the connections of both parties and make a whole big thing about it when deep down we all know Field of Gold is going to crush them.
The problem with it being the Jewel on the Downs, it implies there's only one of them. Rather than here.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Camphor Cliffs fell out the back of the TV in the inaugural running.
But it is over, though, isn't it? It's just going to be... Yeah. Like Field of Gold would crush that lot.
Yeah, so if you try, surely Richard Hannon's first think he's right. Wherever Field of Gold goes, we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Field of Gold, if he runs in the Sussex, and then he goes to Cheltenham International, which is what we all assume he's going to do. That leaves Deauville open to Rosallion. The straight course at Deauville should help him. I think that would really suit. There's no real sort of standout 3-year-old colt in France that you'd be really worried about. So you're likely going to run on your merits. You know, Rosallion's runs have been perfectly acceptable in the Lockinge and the Queen Anne. It's just I don't think Rosallion has improved on what he did last year, because you'd kind of think, even in a slowly run race and probably not the greatest ride from Sean Levy, surely you'd expect Rosallion to pick up Docklands. As great as Docklands is, the handicapper says he's rated 114 and Rosallion couldn't pick him up. Rosallion has probably got to run close to a mark of 130 to beat Field of Gold. It's not going to happen. So, but there are loads of other options. You don't have to sort of stick as a 4-year-old. You're not kind of thinking, right, we have to go to the Sussex and we have to come back for the QE2 or whatever. So there's plenty of options for Rosallion, maybe after Group 1, but he won't beat the 3-year-olds.
How good is that Cricket Head horse over in France?
You've got to be a bit more specific than
that.
The
one that Twain smashed up when he was sent off favourite, and he's bounced back with a win after the French 2000 Guineas.
Hold, please, caller, while I check that form.
Your call is very important to us on Final Furlong Podcast Towers.
It really doesn't excite me particularly. No.
I think he beat Reach the Sky recently.
You mean Marinara Charlie?
That's the one.
Marinara Charlie is interesting, but I think he's a 7 furlong horse. They tried him over 6 at Chantilly. It didn't work. Went back up to 7 for the Paul de Moussac. He won that easily, but he beat Silius and Polly Vega makes Zarigana look genuine. So it's not like it's the most outstanding form. I really like Marinara Charlie going the right way. Not in the same county as Field of Gold, though. And a very good horse, but 7 furlongs would look to be the trip, in my opinion.
Okay. Every time I look at the Racing Post or I go on X, I see people having a pop at Lydia Hislop for this, as if it was her decision and her decision alone to get rid of the Windsor Forest Stakes. And the more we talk about what we've just seen, we keep mentioning 7 furlong horses. We don't have horses that can go further than a mile. And we have 1 elite miler, and that's it. So I'm not saying the Windsor Castle being changed is going to fix things, but at least they're trying something. Let's go to the Prince of Wales Stakes feature race on day 2. It also goes to the Gostons. Ombudsman is a winner, and we'll give him his flowers and all that due respect that is coming his way. Los Angeles is not going to be seen until an ARC prep. Can you break down just how fast they went, Adam Mills, and how insane it was in the early stages?
It's relatively insane, but it's a bit of a scrappy race. I mean, to be honest, let's be honest. The Ballydor boys, I'm sure Aidan would never publicly dress down his jockeys, but he must have looked at the replay of this and gone, "Oh, Jesus, Ryan, what were you thinking, lad?" Because this is just... That's a terrible Aidan O'Brien impression, but it just felt to me...
Well, if it helps, he did say today they went too quick.
Yeah, they did. They just went too quick. And it's not... These things happen. these things happen. And the problem really becomes that the lad on the pacemakers has got no choice because his job is pacemake. The last thing you go, I'll tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to take continuous and I'm going to drop in. That'll throw everybody off the scent. It doesn't really work. So they have to do this. The opening furlongs are just absolutely bonkers. I mean, you've got Los Angeles recording a top speed of 42.59 miles an hour. So for some context, that top speed was faster than both True Love and Crimson Advocate, who won races over short. So, you know, they've gone too hard, put a line through the whole thing. I mean,
is that in the first 2 furlongs?
It's in the first 4 furlongs. So
they've gone faster than True Love over 5.
You can't do that.
So he was in.
No
if they put him in the Queen Mary, he would have been in front of True Love after 4 furlongs.
Well, if they'd raced it over the same part of the track, yes, because obviously they're running down into the bottom, but it's still kind of like you can't do that. So I would imagine Los Angeles needs a break just because he's exhausted.
Yeah,
he certainly felt that way when he turned for home. It's no coincidence that the 4 horses that were held up towards the back are the 4 have come through. There's another really good thing on ITV. I think it was Ruby Welsh, might have been Jason Weaver, I'm not sure who said, like all the jockeys on Ombudsman and Jim Crowley on Amnat and Oisin Murphy, they must have all been looking at each other going, we can't, they must be going too fast. And that's exactly what happened. You know, Amnat, it feels like a bad beat, but I actually think just the simple case is Ombudsman is still progressing and we know everything about Amnat. So I think Amnat has run close to the level he did when winning the Champion Stakes and Ombudsman's buried him. So if there is a Godolphin horse to beat Field of Gold, it's Ombudsman. But the chances of John Gosden wanting to nut his best 3-year-old with his best 4-year-old seems pretty unlikely to me.
Aha! But, Laura Joy, I have a horse, and it's not called Los Angeles. Oh my God. Like, that's just what you want to hear when he's number 1 on your 10-bet top 10 to follow for the week, is they were going faster than True Love over the first 4 furlongs. Wah, wah, wah. Ed Walker's horse. Ed Walker is going to be sitting back on, I told you my horse is good. I told you he's a machine. And he must be.
Yeah, look, it's obviously, it's a great form boost, isn't it? But you have to see him do it. Ombudsman's quite a big horse. He's a big, strong horse. I'd say he would have improved for that run big time. And this race has made him look, it's flattered him. And he's had to go and do it as well. But yeah, Almacam's really interesting going forward. That's who you're on about, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember Ed Walker talking to us about him last year before he raced against Economics and JRB, and he was expecting a big run, but he was worried about the ground, and that's going to be the crucial thing with him this year, is the ground. It can't be too soft and it can't be too firm, so Ascot was out. But I can't wait to see that horse back in action. And I thought John Gosden's comments after the race were really interesting as well. Full of praise for William, full of praise for this horse, but full of praise for Ed Walker's horse as well. So Alacam's going to be one to watch out for going forward. Am I right, Adam, that he was the slowest horse in the race, Ombudsman?
Yes, well, it is, but you have to remember with that speed figure, it can be twisted because often the fastest horse in the race does that speed in the first furlong, which is what happened here.
Yeah.
So the speed gun is not the only thing that I would look for. I'd also be very keen on looking at, like, right, how fast was he going in the furlongs leading to the home straight? That gives you a better guide because that's the point when the leaders are stopping, but those in behind are closing. When they concertina, that's where the speed is. Ombudsman's speed is perfectly fine at that stage. So although he was the slowest horse in the race, quite often, if the leaders go too hard, the slowest horse wins because they're the ones they've used less energy, so they've got more left at the finish.
What John Gosden was saying to Sky afterwards, I think it was Haley Moore, it was Fitzy actually, how complimentary he was about Sheikh Mohammed, that he never put any pressure on with him. He never forced him to take him to a race he didn't want to. And he kept telling him, look, you got to be patient with this horse. And Sheikh Mohammed just kept saying to him, yep, fine, do what you want. Just don't rush it. And he said, what a pleasure it is to train for him. So this is a sort of new project. Trawlerman is obviously a 7-year-old and he's been knocking around for quite a while. But they announced a couple of years ago, we're going to add these trainers in, Laura, to the Godolphin family. And they're going to start training for us as well. And that decision has started to reap massive rewards, certainly from the Gosden perspective.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and a word for Night of Thunder as well. He's just having an unbelievable year, isn't he? And it wasn't the Night of Thunder we thought would be winning the race. I thought Economics was going to show up. He was missing, and what an able deputy. He's just so exciting. Like they mentioned, even trying a mile and a half with him, it looks like he could potentially be better over a mile and a half. which is really exciting.
Would you mark him down as an arc horse?
Don't know how, we haven't seen him on. Well, he actually has ran in France before, hasn't he? So yeah, he has run on. He must have run on soft ground if he's run in France. Yeah, look, not sure, but you want to see him do it somewhere else first, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see him over mile and a half. He could be. It's the one feather that's missing from Night of Thunder's cap is a proper mile and a half horse. He hasn't had one yet, so it'd be great to see it. Yeah, and he could be a real good candidate.
I think he's about to, George. This is a proper horse. I mean, this was quite a deflating race for me with Los Angeles falling at the back of the telly in the epic way that he did. But we did tell you about Anmat. Something's going to improve past him. He'll run a solid race, but something will do him, and something did. But See the Fire puts a good context and good spin on this race. Ombudsman's a proper racehorse, and he's one to be excited about going forward.
Yeah. Like I said on the preview, Ombudsman was probably the worst result for me here because I fully respected how good he was. It was just more on price. I couldn't back him to beat horses like Los Angeles and Anmat just when he hadn't shown it. But I'll repeat the thing I read out here the other day. Where was it? He ran to an RPR of 122 on his 5th career start and seasonal debut. At the time, White Birch was still in this field, so there were 3 horses in the field that recorded a higher RPR. It took Los Angeles 11 starts to do it, and Matt 15 starts to do it, White Birch 10 to do it. So for Ombudsman to run to a mark like that on his 5th career start is clearly a very talented horse. And probably my worst mistake of the week, because he was 11-2 when we recorded that. When he went out to 7-1, I should have hedged with a cheeky sort of each way, get my money back. But I'm full of opinions on this race. So if I could go through them in the order that they hit.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Continuous. Your job on a pacemaker isn't to go as fast as you can. Your job on a pacemaker.
Are you listening, Wayne? Are you listening?
A strong, even gallop. And unfortunately, I think for Wayne, the classic winning horse Continuous showed up this time.
Yeah.
And he'd have been better off riding that sort of race on something rated 100, and he could have blasted the head off it, and it wouldn't have lasted home, and it wouldn't have gone that quick in the first place. Ryan's pot committed at that point because he's decided to follow him on a furlong, and he's on his tail. He's wasting more energy taking a pull than by just going with him. For anyone going, why is Ryan gone with him? Why is Ryan gone with him? He's stuck. He has to. He's committed.
Yeah.
There's nothing Ryan can do in that situation. Factor Cheval. Factor Cheval. I wouldn't dare disagree with what Jerome Renier said about the ride on this horse, although I would have put it a bit more diplomatically, is what I would say. He's the only horse that's not a guaranteed stayer, and he's gone for home first. I will caveat that with going, Continuous and Los Angeles have fallen back in their laps, and when you hit the front, someone's going to hit the front because the other horses are going backwards. And when you hit the front again, you got to commit. It was just maybe a bit unfortunate that he ended up first out of the chasing pack. I think Jerome said that in his sort of analysis of the ride. It's not so much that he's gone and sent him for home miles out. By leading the chasing pack, he's ensured when they've stopped, he's left in front and has to commit. He'd probably have been a bit better off following a couple through. That's what I'll say about that ride. You could equally say the same about Anmat, but again, it's not the first time he's looked the winner and not quite lasted home. Mm-hmm. I wonder if it's the firm ground with him. I think he's better off a slightly softer surface. He can sort of grind, and because he's not going so fast, he can sustain his effort. On the faster ground, he's in top gear for longer than he's comfortable. Especially it's an older horse. Let's not forget he's a 7-year-old as well. I don't think he can maintain that kind of effort on fast ground. It's a very different thing trying to grind out a sort of a staying victory on soft ground than being in top gear as long as he was for this race. But and the last thing I'd say about Ombudsman is he's probably helped by his lack of a clear run, because he was forced to make his move last, and when he made his move, everything else had already stopped. So I say it's a huge performance. RPR of 130, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'd have a raised eyebrow about it.
And Matt, 125 in second? Absolutely not. I think it's a very good performance. Certainly not a 130. I think say, 125, something around that. Post ratings, not official ratings.
Yeah, I think we're all agreed that Ombudsman is
that.
exciting, but there's an asterisk. There's a raised eyebrow hovering over this race for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially when the favourite bombs out like that because he hasn't run his race. That also has to further context is required for sure. That was a tough result. Chucky Apples had a few tough results as well. He couldn't train a dog to walk for the first 4 days of the meeting, and I'm sure people were in an absolute panic and a tizzy when the banker of the week, as he was called by some, Tremor, falls out the back of the telly as well. But the thing is, you can always rely on class. Newcastle had Shearer, United had Roy Keane and Paul Scholes that they could dust off the shelf to bail them out. Arsenal could always rely on Tony Adams. Liverpool always had Robbie Fowler back in the day. Even Benitez brought him back to bang in a few goals here and there. We had Gerrard, we had Rush back in the day. And Charlie Appleby will always, even at the age of 14, be able to call on Rebels Romance. What a hero, Adam Mills. A certainty. A banker. Not even the blogger could stop him. A hero.
Yeah, he's a Group 1 horse running in a Group 2 under Group 1 conditions against horses who ain't good enough. And that's the simple fact of it. And he absolutely delivered. Fair play to him. Difference between him and Stephen Gerrard is he actually won the races that matter. But what I would say is kind of, with Rebels Romance, this is a great performance and a brilliant ride by William Buick. But, this is a genuine world-class Group 1 horse. And he must have looked at his opposition on Saturday and thought, I got this. I've just got it. And I don't want to put down the performance at all because it was brilliant and it was really good display. But in hindsight, 6-4 was a gift. Oh. And I'm annoyed at myself.
5-2. 5-2 the night before.
Each way bets against this lad. He's a Group 1 performer. He must have looked in the stalls next to him and gone, Jesus, what are you rated? I've got like a stone in hand on most of this field. So he's really delivered. I'm sure he'll be off on his travels again. What a wonderful horse to own. Charlie Appleby's another one. Like, there's lots of people out there who don't take losing that well and understand well. Charlie Appleby, what a gent.
Unbelievable.
I watched every interview this week. Took it all on the chin. That's life. We have good runs. We have bad runs. But there was almost a feeling when I saw his interview on Saturday, I thought, he knows. He knows he's got this. He's probably just doesn't want to curse it, but he must have known he's got this. What a horse. Fair play to Al Whiffer. He ran all right. Ghostwriter began the long task of trying to get their 2 million back. I thought he ran okay. There might be some races for him, albeit probably not a Group 1 level. But it just looked all a little bit messy. There's lots in this field where I think they're all going to fall into the Group 3 listed kind of category. They're good at that level, but they can't take the next step up, and that's why Rebels Romance won. He can deliver a Group 1 performance, and the other 10 runners can't.
Goliath was beaten in this race a year ago and then won the King George. He's won it. If this weather holds up and he gets good to firm ground, Laura, could he do it? Could he win the King George?
You wouldn't be looking out of place in the lineup. But would you be as certain as you were on Saturday about him? No, you wouldn't. Not a domestic Group 1. Like he's probably better off doing what he does best, going around the world and just picking up big prizes like that. A genuine Group 1 over a mile and a half here, he'd be like 5-6 to 1. He wouldn't be a.
I'd take 5 to 1. I don't know what the field is going to be yet.
Yeah, you take 5 to 1, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's nice.
I love the horse. I don't want to. You're making me say bad things about him, and I don't want to. He's an amazing horse, like, and an absolute credit to the team. But would I back him in the King George? No, probably not.
Would you back him in the Breeders' Cup Turf?
Yeah. He loves it. He loves it there. He doesn't even know he's racing until he's at the line, and he's like, "Oh, geez, here we are." He's turning around.
And it'll be back to Del Mar. Be back to Del Mar. It's going to be a firm surface. There'll be quite a few of the Europeans won't turn up, but he will. He'll be
he just scoots around to Bowie Stride, and
he'll be a good thing for that, George. He'll be an absolute certainty for the Breeders' Cup Turf.
I'm thinking about the King George still, to be honest.
So am I. Yeah, Laura, take that.
Most of our 3-year-olds are milers and 7 furlong horses. So we'll see. Like Lamball's going to the Irish Derby. Would he back up in time for that?
No.
I don't know.
No. It'll be Jan Bruegel. He's the one who'll rock up.
It could be Jan Bruegel.
I think so.
It'll be Jan Bruegel. Jan Bruegel won to the ride the last day. Like, he's too tricky to beat a horse like this around a track that he loves, clearly. I can't see what there'd be to beat him. Los Angeles can't go now.
Oh, let's not forget last year's winner is on his way to the King George.
True. That I think that's rival, in fairness. Although he beat absolute trees the last stage.
You'll beat him.
Yeah.
He beat that fella. That was a weird King George last year. Remember Aidan O'Brien was uncharacteristically angry afterwards because the ground was not good to firm, which I'm pretty sure the time backs up. And also, Blue Stocking never went on good to firm ground, and they were then lured into a false sense of security to supplement her to the Jumpment International, which was on proper good to firm ground, and she was fourth. So Aidan was adamant it wasn't good to firm ground. Rebels Romance loves good to firm ground. Auguste Rodin loved it. They both got beaten. Blue Stocking placed. Then she ran on good to firm ground again and got beaten and couldn't place. So that didn't pan out in the way it did. And that means I think you can ignore last year's King George for Rebels Romance and go that he couldn't have run his race that day. Whereas if they get good to firm ground this time around, 9-1, 10-1 with a couple of firms. Jesus, William Hiller going 10s.
The only thing that's a bit upsetting thing about it is I'm not sure how good a King George it's going to be. Whereas the Jumpmont International shaping up all right. The Sussex, not Sussex Stakes, the whatever it's called, Goodwood is shaping up to be a good race. I'm not sure how good this is going to be for King George.
We'll take the listeners and the viewers through the runners. Kalpana's going for the Pretty Polly, as far as I know, because she was going to the Hardwick and that was the alternative. Jan Bruegel is now...
Are we forgetting the Derby winner?
He's not going.
No. Is he not?
No.
He's running this weekend, is he?
Yeah, he's going to run the Irish Derby, but they won't back him up to this. I don't think so, Laura.
They've done it before.
Jeez, they might, you know. Jan Bruegel is currently the Coolmore number 1 at 3s, but he wasn't, remember. Goliath, the defending champion, is... Jesus, he's a big price. 7-1. Calandigan's 8s. Well, they won't run both. Then you've got Rebels Romance between 6s and 10s. Sosi goes for the Eclipse. Ombudsman, they didn't mention this race. Amalok. And then Lambourne is between 10 and 16-1. If he bolted up in the Irish Derby, they might go for it.
Yeah. The horse I'd say has run massive in this race is old Palladium. Race.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't look like he wanted to come out at all. And some world-class horsemanship from Ryan to get him out onto the track. Because I've seen bad jockeys get themselves hurt in that situation. I've seen good jockeys get themselves hurt in that situation. You want just that video of him coming out. His body doesn't move. There's the same length of rein. There's a little loop in his rein the whole way. Jesus, that horse was dying to flip over on him. And it was really, really good horsemanship to get him out there without making a meal out of it. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes jockeys or riders in general, work riders, they can panic in that situation and make it worse for themselves. And Ryan wouldn't be riding horses like that every day anymore. Don't get me wrong. He's probably... I can't imagine Aidan's queuing up to sit him on a really bad one at home, like knowing he needs him on the track. So for a jockey who's not dealing with that sort of thing on a day-to-day basis, and obviously he's the world's best, but if you're a fan of horsemanship, you've got to watch that video back because that was incredible. And as for Ghostwriter Watch, I think was it £26,900 for third, so £1,973,100 left. I don't know if Mr. Ammo is going to be sacking his son.
We want to get Kia on the show.
I actually met him on Thursday. He's a thoroughly nice bloke, I will say.
We're big fans of Kia now.
It was a good performance for his first try over a mile and a half, wasn't it? I thought it was a good performance for that.
Yeah.
It was somewhat underwhelming, but at the same time, maybe the best way of putting it is it's not underwhelming, it's not overwhelming, it's whelming. It was a whelming performance.
Yeah.
If they can get him to settle and then he actually could maybe get involved, but potentially not Group 1, but yeah.
International Group 1,
he hadn't been through
Yeah, because he likes fast ground, yeah.
That German Group 1 that Al Rifa won last year that was terrible. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's usually run on bottomless pit, but they'll have fun with him. Like I think his attempt over the trip is good. I don't know whether they're going to was there talk of him moving trainer, or is he going to stay put? I'm not sure. I heard a few rumbles, but
he said he hadn't decided yet, didn't he? When he was asked that, he hadn't decided where to leave him. I think someone said about something about he didn't know who Clive Cox was, which I'm sure is an exaggeration. I think he was interviewed himself and he said that was an exaggeration, but it was said somewhere that he had said he didn't know who he was.
He didn't have a winner at Ascot, but the horses ran well.
Like Arizona Blaze ran off his head.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about Clive Cox's horses. They all ran well.
Oh, sorry, Clive Cox. Sorry. Yeah, no, he had a good week. Yeah.
He didn't have
someone who was with most of them.
Yeah, he didn't have a winner. Jasura backed up twice with 2 big runs. I mean, he was only beaten 4.5. I know it's 10th, but he's only beaten 4.5 lengths in the Kingstown and 5 lengths in the other. He's not good enough, but there's plenty of horses who ran well for him. They're all left trailing, though, in the wake of the absolute superstar monster Rebels Romance, which was my second winner of 10 for 10 bet. Oh, Jesus Christ, that was a horrible list. Sometimes the ground changes. You don't know what the draw is going to be happening. I would have updated it during the week and changed things. But anyway, it's also really pleasant when you then look at what were your alternates. Never So Brave, Gestad, True. Oh, lovely. Excellent stuff. That's outstanding. The ones I didn't put in are the ones who will come out on top. Gold Cup goes to Trollerman, another 7-year-old strutting his stuff. So Anmat ran a great race. Rebels Romance proves king. And another 7-year-old proved king, Laura. Trollerman. A great week for John and Thady Gosden. Got better with him. If Kiprios had been in the lineup, I'm sure he would have won. But geez, he'd have given him a race.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? Trollerman deserved his day in the sun, but as a race as a whole, and this division just looks really, really, it's struggling now. Do you know? It wasn't a vintage race. There was seven finished, 1 was pulled up. You've got a 7-year-old beating a 4-year-old that wasn't even meant to be until 3 weeks ago, beating a 9-year-old and beating another 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. It's in dire straits, really, the staying division, and it's very concerning. And I think, I know you touched on the Windsor Castle thing. It's all well and good doing those things, but the problem is that our stayers are being sold abroad. They're not being kept here, and that's the reason why horses in Gold Cups at the 17th attempt. You know, obviously I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. It just wasn't a vintage renewal of the race, and I'm not speaking from sour grapes with Candellari. I think he looked in trouble from the outset. He was never comfortable, and you knew your fate straight away. I wouldn't give up on that horse. I think he'll still have a nice one in him.
Is that Francois Goffard saying, yeah. Thank you, Laura?
No, do you know who it is? It's the lady Jane McGivern that stands Golden Horn ringing me to say, cop on.
Hey,
stop giving out about
this is a career best performance from Trollerman at the age of 7. Golden Horn can get your horses to improve with age. Talk him up, Laura.
God, isn't it shocking that a stallion like him, with the opportunity he got, has only got his first Group 1 winner now? Jesus, it is abysmal. But yeah, look, great for Trollerman, great that Godolphin. It's important that these guys have their winners, but this race just didn't excite me, and I should stop talking because I'm being too negative now.
No, but I understand what you mean by that, and it is wild that a 7-year-old is recording a career high RPR in one of the biggest races of the year. Like, what the hell was that?
But the good thing about it, the best thing about it, was William Buick's ride, because that was masterful. He gave him an absolute peach, and it was probably one of the rides of the week. But yeah, that's about all I can say about it positively.
Well, he's gone out on a horse he knows is going to stay, and he's ridden him to stay. It's like, if you can come past me, fair enough. And none of them could. And I think that was John Gosden's kind of attitude beforehand as well. He spoke to the Moose on TalkSport 2 beforehand and said, well, we're going to go out, we're going to make it. And if one of the younger horses gets past us, fair enough. Mm-hmm. But none of them could, Adam. He just blew them to pieces.
Yeah, I agree that this is a career best from Trollerman, but I also think that that's probably not the greatest reflection on our staying division.
Yeah.
You know, and I know what you just said, that Kiprios would have beaten Trollerman. Would he? I don't know.
Oh, no, that's what I mean. I mean, Trollerman would have
improved on last year's to win this, but the problem is, in behind you, Illinois is a blatant non-stayer. I don't care what Aidan says. I don't think he's reversing this form, because to my eye, this is a horse who just looked empty with 6 furlongs to run, and Ryan did his best to nurse him round. You know, Dubai Future's a great horse. Well, I'd love to own him, but I know he's ridden to finish third, but the fact he's finished third makes you think, at the age of 9, after however many starts he had, he's not improving. Candelari didn't stay. As I said last week, 6 miles I wouldn't back Sweet William. Lovely horse, but he's just got no pace at all, bless him. Everything else is there. It's a great form for Trawlerman. I expect Trawlerman just to go through the rest of the season now, win the Goodwood Cup, win Doncaster on Champions Day, win the Long Distance Cup. Off we go. And it's, he probably deserved his Gold Cup. He's a very good horse. But what do you say about this division? And even then, you're looking behind this division and thinking, right, what's coming through? Well, maybe the horse that won the Queen's Vase might develop into a cup horse. Completely exposed, Corma, that could be potential, but there's not like we're inundated with stayers. And you have to look at this and think, when I was doing my notes, I thought, where would Sober have finished if he ran in the Gold Cup? Now, I know Sober won a terrible Queen Alexandra and was a group horse against struggling handicappers. I think Sober would probably have finished third. And that's maybe a fair reflection of kind of like, if you're really saying the Queen Alexandra winner would have finished third in the Gold Cup, was this really a Group 1 race? I'm not sure. But fair play to Trawlerman, career best. He'll probably add 3 more Group 1s to his CV this season unless something drastically goes wrong. But I think Laura's right. This division is on life support right now.
So what you're saying, Adam, very clearly to the final Furlong podcast posse is Nicky Henderson fumbled the ball because Constitution Hill would have bolted up in the Gold Cup.
Oh, did he, bowl? Don't wedge that into my Royal Ascot. The flat season's so enjoyable. We don't have to talk about that.
I actually, Gary had to take off there. I was going to ask him, did you prefer Royal Ascot to Cheltenham? And I think most people did.
Yeah.
Laura?
Royal Ascot to Cheltenham. Oh, every day of the week, yeah. Jesus.
These days, yeah. George Gorman, you were there. Did you prefer, be honest, did you prefer Royal Ascot this year to Cheltenham?
No, I'm jumped through and through, aren't I? Like I love Ascot. I do love Ascot, but it's a very different thing. It's about the day out for me. Like I obviously do all the form study and everything for this show. By the time I get there, I know the race is inside out, and I'm well up for it. It only gets to be like Cheltenham the week before for me. Once I've drilled through, I've got every sort of form line memorised and all that sort of thing. But Cheltenham, the form study does itself because you've been following the horses for years. And Cheltenham start a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months before. Ascot only gets really exciting a week or two out for me. So I say on pure anticipation. I'm not saying on the product they deliver. That's a different question. The different question is which is the better run operation is undoubtedly Royal Ascot. Absolutely undoubtedly. And I'm a little bit biased in that, and my uncle runs a small part of it, but it's a much better product for sure. But geez, it's a much more marketable product because it doesn't often rain at Royal Ascot, which just makes it, and the top hats and the finery and all that. It's much more marketable in terms of sponsors, in terms of non-racing fans, compared to Cheltenham, where it's like, it might absolutely piss with rain. It might be 2 degrees all day, but you can have a load of pints, you'll be fine. And then on those days you go to the bar and you have to wait an hour to get a drink because everyone's got the same idea. Royal Ascot is built to host an international sporting event like that. That's why I said actually, when I had my first ride at Cheltenham, like you get there and you're like, oh wow, this is Cheltenham. You're thinking about like the history and you're like, it doesn't mean anything to anyone but me, but it's like it feels like achieving something. Having a ride at Ascot, I didn't feel like I was achieving much having ridden there. But when you turn up and you get out of the car and you see that grandstand, you're like, Jesus, look, this is different. I'm part of something altogether different. Like it's it feels like riding at Wembley, whereas ride at Cheltenham be more like, I don't know, like the Maracana Stadium in Brazil, like some of this dripping in history, but probably wouldn't be the most well furnished of places. But yeah, it's a very different product is the point I would make.
I've never competed on track like you. That's a very different thing, obviously. But when you walk onto Cheltenham, there is a feeling that you get when you're broadcasting there. There's something about Ascot. I can't quite describe it, but it's intimidating. It's very intimidating when you're there. It's an amazing venue.
I think the crowd's bigger, but they're probably less informed. I think it'd be fair to say at Ascot, depending on where you go. I'd say if you're around Queen Anne Royal Enclosure, especially if you stand near the paddock or near the pre-parade ring, you are probably surrounded by some more knowledgeable race goers.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you're in the concourse or under the grandstand, there'd be a fair amount of people that might see one race all day. Because I don't think that happens so much at Cheltenham. I think at Cheltenham, people watch every single race. Even though they watch it on the TV in the bar, they watch every single race. Whereas I think at Ascot, there's so much going on, it'd be very easy to miss 2 or 3 races.
Yeah, it's a knowledgeable crowd, but I will say this: there's nobody heading off to Spain to watch Royal Ascot. There are people heading off to Spain to watch Cheltenham. So one product is working really, really well, and the other one, guys, you got to do something. You got to do it quickly. George, briefly, your thoughts on the Gold Cup?
I'd say maybe a little harsh on Trawlerman because his first grade one was a little while ago now, back in March. He's a champion hurdle breeding sire. In this context, I'm not sure that's worth, but the Group 1, I'm sure they'd probably be happier with. Fantastic ride, probably an even better ride on Sweet William, who I thought might have been best served. To see the trip out by being held up a bit more, but he did a fantastic job running for Trawlerman up the home straight, with Rab Havlin riding for his life to cling on to Trawlerman's coattails so that Illinois would have to come round him. But that's just Aidan O'Brien getting Aidan O'Brien, isn't it?
Yeah, so, Aidan basically said that today. Yep.
I think he said, what did he say? He said, we're not going to cry about it.
Yeah.
Which I think was a fantastic quote from a man you don't really speak that way very often. Illinois will get there. It might be a bit of... I'll be worried about him going to Goodwood now, having had a grueler like that his first time up in trip. I'd be concerned. I'll be more happy with him next season, starting out again over a mile 6, working his way up to a Gold Cup. I wouldn't ever say he can't win a Gold Cup, but I think he needs a more even campaign rather than sort of changing plans last minute and jumping from mile 6 to 2 mile 4. I'll cut it short there because we've talked for long enough about this race.
Okay, and now for something completely different. The sprinters. American Affair, Lazzat. American Affair was talked up on the show. I had him in exotics. I didn't do him properly at all, but well done to you for those who kept the faith with him. He becomes only the second Scottish trained winner at Royal Ascot since Queen Victoria's era. Jim Goldie's only runner of the week is a winner. They'll head to the Breeders' Cup. What did you make of American Affair, Laura?
Delighted for the connections, the trainer, jockey. It was a great story. But this race didn't really interest me before it, and it doesn't really excite me afterwards either. Like, I think the sprinting division is almost as weak as the stayers, and it's, when you run it 10 times, you're going to get 10 different winners, I think. So, but yeah, I'm pleased for Jim Goldie and his connections. It's great to see. You love to see different stallions, different owners, different trainers hitting the board at Ascot. It's like life-changing stuff for them and a life's worth of work, So, but other than that, I don't have anything else to add to it, really.
It obviously meant the world to Paul Mulrennan as well. That's the third generation of that horse's family that Jim Goldie has trained. And he's a Royal Ascot winner, Adam. He did win off a mark of 70 first time out last April, and now he's a Group 1 winner. So I'm like Laura. I love the horse. I'm really pleased that he's won. But I'm like, on to the next one.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should all be studying Carlisle Class 5 handicap form, shouldn't we, for next year's Kingstown winner? It's a great story. I wrote a piece today about the state of British sprinting, and then I thought, I've got to rewrite this. Right. This is a great story. Well done to Jim Goldie. What an achievement with this horse to win a Group 1. But at the same time, this horse has won a Group 1 at Royal Ascot, and our sprinters are just shocking.
The rubbish.
We'll come to another horse in a little while who would probably have won this race if he was in it. So it's kind of like, I just don't really see this as a particularly good race. And while it's a great story, sometimes when you get a really emotional story, it can hide the fact underneath that the form is terrible. The time's not very good. The race is a bit messy. They're all spread out across the track. At the 2 furlong pole, any one of 10 could win it. We'll come to a superstar sprinter in a moment who I'm desperate to crowbar into the conversation. But there's superstar sprinters, and then there's British and Irish sprinters, and they're not in the same league. This was a British sprint.
It's funny how we spend so much time focused on breeding precocity and speed, and then this is what we end up with, George.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think first you've got to say well done to Timeform's Dan Barber, who I think...
what a shout.
I think he watched it, watched it get beat at Pontefract last August and said it was a Group 1 horse to anyone who would listen. And yeah, fair play. I said he told anyone who would listen. I'm not sure how many people listened, but and to keep the faith after the horse went and got beat in a Group 2 last time. Yeah, fair play. Did Magira?
She was withdrawn at the start.
She was withdrawn at the start, wasn't it? It wasn't this race, though, was it? Was it this race?
Yeah.
It was. Good old Kurdos ran his race again. Like, absolutely, we love old Kurdos, despite getting rid of Christoph Simeon on the way to the start, which I'm sure takes a fair bit of doing, especially at 5 years of age. I actually saw that and just went, actually, as long as he doesn't go anywhere too fast, I'm quite pleased to see that, because he was obviously feeling well. Regional needs to go further. I think it started very quickly. That's the only thing about him going up in trip. He's a very fast starter. But then he sort of outpaced in the middle part of the race and stayed on again very well. I think I know he's 7 now. I'd much rather see him over 6 these days. The second horse was running an absolute blinder for old Mickey Barcelona. Got beat a neck on one again, for the last time that week. And Starlust as well is one to keep on side. Obviously surprised everyone at the Breeders' Cup last year. That's a horse I think it took him a lot longer. He won a race early in the season, then went completely missing last season, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then popped up again at the end. So interesting to see him hitting form already, if that makes sense. That's obviously a horse to have in the notebook. Not a left field one at all, but definitely one to keep an eye on where he goes next. But yeah, just lovely to see for connections, really, wasn't it? And the pictures of Adele Mulrennan watching the finish on ITV were a very good use of ITV's time for once. No, but I very much enjoyed watching that.
There's a very simple system to the sprinters. You just put their names on a wheel, spin the wheel, and whichever one it lands on, that's your selection. Because they'll just keep beating one another. Except for the horse that Adam Mills told you about on this show weeks ago. Lazzat. He'll crush this lot, I think is what he said. He's the greatest certainty of all time. He can't get beaten. He just, even if he drifts, gets stuck in. He wasn't quite as enthusiastic as that. But you were extremely confident about him, Adam, and now I know why. He's a machine, and nothing will touch him. That's only his second start over 6 furlongs, and he's blown him to the smithereens.
Yeah, I can't believe when we did the preview last week, I was like, why was I worried? What was I worried about? I knew this was going to win. It was the way he runs suits a straight track. I'm actually quite glad he went to Australia in Cercene, because it kind of has taught them we don't need to try and stretch him out to a mile. He's a brilliant sprinter. And he's absolutely battered everything apart from Satono Rev, who's probably the second best sprinter in the world.
Yeah.
Lazzat might be close to that now. I said to you last week, the picture's coming. It gets delivered on Friday. It was going there. It's now going above the bed. Mrs. hasn't been told yet, but I'm sure we'll be all right. But it was just one of those things. I think I texted you, Emmet, on Saturday and said, like, this lad's out to like 11 to 2. What on earth's going on here? This is wrong. There's no way he should be a bigger price than Storm Boy, who, has he finished yet, Emmet? I'm not sure, lad.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh. So, but, I mean, what Lazzat does is he gets out quickly, and he actually wins the race in the opening furlong. He makes up more ground on Satono Rev in the opening furlong than Satono Rev makes up on him over the next 5. And it's just that early speed. He gets all of them out of their comfort zone. And, this is a massive run from Satono Rev. Around a bend, the Japanese horse might just reverse the form, because I don't think around a bend Lazzat will be able to do the same kind of blast and make it an absolute end-to-end. But, he's an absolute superstar horse. On a straight course, I think he's almost unbeatable because of the way he runs on a straight 6 furlongs. It's just everything halfway is beaten. And if you watch the race back, João Moreira is the only jockey who even looks like he's got a hope of getting near him. keeps going. I mean, people say, oh, he's a gelding. Well, you saw after the race why he's a gelding. If he's that nuts without his conkers, imagine what he was like beforehand. So this is, a wonderful horse. And the fact he's a gelding's great because he'll be back next year to do his crown, and you wouldn't want to take him on in a hurry. Of all the French horses that have let me down over the years, this lad was just like, I was watching it, and normally I'm like shouting and screaming at the telly if I've got a big bet running. It's like, oh, he's won. It's over. It was over. At no point did I think they're going to get to him. Once he was in front and James Doyle had a straight ride, good on him, son. I'd imagine they've already said, I think the July Cup's off the agenda. I'd imagine it's quite straightforward now. Yeah, exactly. Go back to Deauville, pick that up, and then he'll be on his travels. And the only thing that could Lazzat beat is a bend. I just think the straight courses is what he wants. That straight sprint. Maybe they look at Dubai. But you'd also have to think, if Lazzat had been in the King Charles, would he have won it over 5? He might have done. Because I think he's miles better than these. It doesn't say much of British sprinting. Satono Rev has done Japan very proud. And where I guess we have to sort of allow the Hong Kong fans there. Koying Rising's the best in the world. Doesn't travel, but as long as he stays in the home, that's the way it goes. But
it's Winks all over again. No, the best in the world.
Oh no, he's not Winks, that handicapper. But Lazzat is like in that kind of. If you had to pick the top 3 turf sprinters in the world, it would probably be Lazzat, Satono Rev, and Koying Rising in some order. And on a straight course, Lazzat is unbeatable.
Breeders' Cup sprint is not over at Delmar. It's not over a straight track, isn't it? There's a turn.
Well, why would you? You can plot his way around. You can go to Deauville. Dubai must be tempting with the prize money in Dubai. There's loads. I mean, the great thing is because he's a gelding, you haven't got to think like, oh, we're a bit worried if he gets turned over a few times. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they don't care.
So you could go wherever you want. You could go to Cercene. Maybe you want to take on Koying Rising. You might get beat, but it doesn't matter because you'll come back to Ascot next year and you'll do, Inner Sheeran and Flora Bermuda by 3 lengths once a year. So it's kind of, this division isn't that deep, but the difference with this division and others is there are 2 or 3 genuine 125 plus types, of which he's one.
Well, those who kept the faith with you were massively rewarded because of the gamble on Satono Rev. And Laura, you were telling us last week how well he looked in the gallops in the mornings that you were out riding work and you'd see him every day. And I know you've met the connections and they were all very bullish. He's been carried out in his shield.
Yeah, he has. They weren't bullish. They're like the nicest people in the world. They're just so down to earth and polite and lovely. And they were gracious in defeat. Like they were brilliant. Saw the horse this morning. He looked great as well. I think he did have a hard race. There was a discussion afterwards of whether he'd stay and run again, maybe go in July Cup. But the decision, I think, what I've heard is he's going back, which is a shame. It would have been nice to see him again. But I think he's had a very hard race. He actually finished his last furlong was faster than Lazzat. And I think he came from the wrong part of the track as well, but he's just ran a brilliant race. And look, Lazzat's going to be very hard to beat wherever he goes, like Adam says, on a straight track.
It's just that simple, George, isn't it? Lazzat's better than everybody else.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. I didn't particularly enjoy the Flavian Pratt-esque level of horsemanship, throwing the paddock sheet at its face while it was about to come in. There you go. If you're going to dish it out, you've got to take it. That wasn't very smart. Maybe even less smart was the person who seemingly didn't work for Ascot and didn't work for the yard, who went to try and catch it and nearly got his head kicked off.
Yeah, what the?
Knows who that bloke was still.
Was he taking inspiration from Hayley Moore? Hayley Moore is a brilliant horsewoman who knew what she was doing that day. Don't ever try and do that. They will destroy you.
I asked because my cousin's fiance was one of the blokes out there trying to catch him. I said, well, who was that bloke? We have no idea. It's just some bloke in shorts.
That dude could have been.
No idea where he came from.
That dude could have
been
killed.
He nearly got himself murdered on the track.
Could have been killed.
It was, he's certainly not someone who spent any time with horses anyway. Some of the hero complex.
Probably had a few Fosters in him. He was like, I can do it.
Yeah.
No, don't.
God knows. The only one I make a point for is Flora Bermuda.
Oh, what a horse.
Drawn the opposite side of the track to the other two, and actually doesn't have it's right up out the back, doesn't have a clear run, and still gets within 3 lengths of Satono Rev. Like it's a massive run. Racing Post ratings have got it as a step backwards from the run behind Inish Hearing.
That's nonsense.
Which I can't understand at all. Like, it's a huge run. This is a Group 1 filly. There's a group like if you're just going on like it's the first English horse home. Do you know what I mean? There'll be plenty of domestic sprints to be won with her, and I think the handy thing 5 as well. She's not sort of locked into 6. She actually the way she finished the race, you'd almost say she gets 7. So I'd say you could be fairly plans can be fairly fluid about where you go with her.
Another one for the City of York. It's only 7 furlong horses. No, she'll win the Haydock Sprint Cup.
Yeah, that's shout. Yeah, 100%. No, I'm very, very fond of that horse. And the O'Mara horse ran huge in 4th as well.
Yeah.
So what you do with that now? Do you take that seriously and keep running it in Group 1s? I suppose you have to.
Oh, give it a go. Why not?
Yeah.
You've justified 100 to 1. You may as well.
Yeah,
it's a crap
100%.
division, George.
Yeah.
It's a terrible division. Lazzat aside. And Flora Bermuda aside. They're rubbish. Which is why Time for Sandals won the Commonwealth Cup. Well done, Time for Sandals. I mean, great performance. Shadow of Light. Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, what was that? What was that, Adam?
Well, that was just a horse running on ground that he didn't like, is it not? I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I was a bit worried because like last week I was pretty derogatory about Ryevka's chances, saying he's slow, he won't get near this. And at the Furlong pole, I was thinking, oh my God, I missed the 20 to 1 French winner flying up there. The fact Ryevka got within a length is really making me question myself. I had to go back on my notes and go, no, you're right. This horse is probably not really quick enough for 6, and he's nearly pinched it. So, I don't know. Time for Sandals was beaten at Chantilly when it ran against Marinara Charlie, who was running over the wrong trip. It was 3rd in the Fred Darling, which looked terrible form. Rated 105, wins this. Fair play, but I don't know. This felt really messy to me. It felt almost like a lot of the jockeys were looking at Shadow of Light thinking, this thing's going to pick us up in a minute. And we're all kind of riding for a place. And then they got to the 2 furlong pole and went, oh, Jesus, this favourite's beatable. And it was all a bit messy after that. I don't know. There's been some real superstar winners of the Commonwealth Cup. There's been some real average ones. And I think, as admirable as the winner is, I think this was a pretty average renewal.
I'm sick at myself, and it's my fault. But I was of the opinion that Shadow of Light was extremely lucky to win 2 Group 1s last year. He was running in the Mill Reef, and on the day, he was on track, running in the Mill Reef in a Group 2, and the ground went against him, and then a week later they threw him into the Middle Park and he wins. And then he gets extremely lucky again. On the morning of the Dewhurst, the Line in Winter comes out. The odds-on favourite is gone, and he just about manages to beat a maiden winner from the week before, who is absolutely useless this season. Poor old Ancient Truth is no longer with us. Who knows what that horse could have done. Godolphin were very excited about him last year. Seagull's 11 has been gelded, drops in class, and gets lapped in the Jersey. He wasn't lapped, he ran all right. But he's no good. That's terrible form. And that was my opinion, and I kept listening to people who I consider to be smarter than me, who are like, no, he's going to rip them to shreds. He's going to be brilliant. Nobody gives a damn about High Royal, who was 3rd in the Guineas, and no one should care about this fella either. Now, maybe over 7 furlongs, he'll be another one who wins the City of York Stakes. It's going to be a dead heat at this point. But I think you look back on it, Laura, that form does not hold up. He beat Whistle Jacket. Are you backing Whistle Jacket to win a Group 1 this year?
No, but I think you're being really harsh on this horse. I think watch him go and win the Breeders' Cup Mile, Turf Mile at the end of the year. He's made for that. He was just in the wrong race. That's like this race was an afterthought. You can't afterthought a Group 1. He was only here because Ruling Court was in the St. James's Palace.
Appleby was saying the night before, he's going to win. Oh, we can't wait to see him. Everything's great with him. It's perfect.
They have to. They have to say that. Like, they're not going to say, oh yeah, no, we're running him and he's favourite, but we don't think he's really got a chance, you know? Like, it'd be great if they did tell us, but I think anyone who backed him in this is like, needs their head checked.
I need my head checked. and Adam and I, like, there's an episode of the podcast where it's Andy, George, Adam and I, and the 4 of us are just looking at it going, but it's a terrible race. He has to win it. Like, surely he has to win it. And then I kind of flipped and went, no. These Appleby horses, the only one who'll win is Rebels Romance. Just ignore him. Lay this fella. And I'm like, He has to win. Oh, no.
I mean, even with Babouche, obviously he threw a race away. She was so keen, but I fancied her to beat him as well. I don't know how he went off favourite. It's just beyond me, to be honest. But yeah, it was and again, great result for Harry. He's hadn't won a Group 1 before this week, and next thing you know, he's won 2.
Well, if it wasn't for Harry Eustace, you walk away with a massive prize winner. You were all over Arizona Blaze.
Yeah, I know. I was sick. I was sick. He ran a big race. He had good form from that pre-Siggy, but you know, he's similar. Like, he's a Group 3, Group 1 placed horse, and he's come within a neck of winning Group 1. It just shows you it was a weak Group 1, a very weak Group 1. And I've been of the opinion since this race was made a Group 1 that it probably shouldn't be, and that they need to really keep it under consideration for demotion. Rev, because ran big. Think, yeah, again, another one for the 7 furlongs. Shadow of Light, we know, disappointed. Not sure what's going on with Big Mojo this year. He's been really disappointing. Particularly, like, he was kind of the flagship horse for Mahathir, so you'd like to see him kind of put it together. But Babouche as well, Ger Lines and travelling his horses over. It wasn't good, was it? I mean, she's just ran. She's pulled too hard and just thrown away any chance she had. But yeah, you hate to see it. It was disappointing to see her run like that.
No, and Ger's a class act. He's Breeders' Cup winner. That's not the problem. Yeah. But for whatever reason, Royal Ascot is it early 2000s? You got to go back to now for his last winner. And again, I'm a big Ger Lines fan. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, genius. Oh, he's a genius. Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on there. And Big Mojo just looks like he hasn't trained on. There's nothing there.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. You should though.
It's just an average race, George.
Yeah. Like it didn't look it on paper, did it? I just think we're quite unlucky. We've had a few of the big guns underperform, like say Babouche, Ides of March, John Quill. Obviously
John Quill was. Oh.
Yeah, but you think if all those horses run their races, you're going, wow, what a competitive Group 1 that was. But I don't know. With Big Mojo, I know Twitter wasn't thrilled with the ride, or X as it was. I haven't watched it closely enough myself, but I've been told in multiple places it wasn't the best ride. But I just bring that up rather than letting us go. What's going on with Big Mojo? He's not trained on. I would just mention that again with no leading sort of thing. It's a career best from Arizona Blaze, I think. Certainly his best in Group 1 company. And you can't take anything away from the winner because he's done most of the running on his own. I think the second horse in his group finished 8th, wasn't it? Sky Majesty was over on his side.
Yeah.
The fact that he's done so much of it on his own makes me a little more inclined to believe it, regardless of the quality of horse he's actually beaten there. And with Shadow of Light, it was easy to say when he showed so much pace to the Guineas, I would drop back in trip. I did think my only thing with it going in was I wish it was 7 rather than 6. Like, I just couldn't. And actually, now you look back through it, you go, well, last time he ran over 6 furlongs was obviously winning the Middle Park at Newmarket. That was on soft ground. So you have to go back to time before that to last time he ran over 6 furlongs on good ground. And it was when he was beating the Gym Crack. So actually, over 6 furlongs on a sound surface, all he's done is win a maiden and a novice. Like, you sort of look at it, it's there in the form. Actually, this horse needs a little further than that. And even if you do think he's a 6 furlong horse, stepping back from a mile on good ground to on Royal Ascot good to firm is a big ask. It's a totally different sort of pace, totally different sort of test. It was probably just a bit of a culture shock for him, I would say. And he's probably run all right in the circumstances. And this is all very easy to say when I was telling everyone to back him last week. But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's after time, but the clues are there in the form in hindsight. Maybe you just don't want to see them when you're trying to back a horse.
I've been listening to everything you said, but I would like to retract my comments about Big Mojo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is it that bad?
Oh my God. There was no gap, in fairness. I don't know what you could have done, but Jesus. Yeah, I'd like to retract those comments. He's trained on all right. Okay. We're done with that. Juveniles. Gestad. first time we get to properly talk about Aidan O'Brien. So he had the same number of winners, but the Goslings had more runners-up. So it's been a terrific week for him. Garden of Eden, Trinity College, they both look like proper middle-distance prospects, but it's the Juveniles. Gstaad is Aidan O'Brien's 11th success in the Coventry Stakes. And he's not, by the RPRs, rated as one of the best of them, Laura, but given the fact that he's a half-brother to Van Dijk, given that he's by Star Spangled Banner, and he's showing this kind of speed on only his second start, he has to be exciting.
God, yeah, he's a hugely exciting horse. Like, he's won by, what, 3 lengths? He's won on a second start, and the form's all working out, and he's got the pedigree, he's got the looks, he's a gorgeous horse. Like, he's absolutely destroyed these. You know, what do you say? There was a few disappointments. Military Code, Charlie Appleby's horse, was disappointing. Postmodern, very disappointing, but I think he pulled very hard. Going back, we're going all the way back to day one now, aren't we? So it's a long way back in the memory. But yeah, he was like, when you look at him in the paddock as well, he's a gorgeous horse, and he looks like he's there. He's all there now. I wouldn't say he's a big scopy horse. You know, it's kind of similar to Van Dijk. He's ready to rock as he is. But I think they'll have a very productive season with him this year, and if he can stay out of issues at 3, that was kind of what stopped him. But if he can stay sound and keep operating over this trip, he's probably one that could light up the sprinting division. A few of these 2-year-olds could, actually, for next year.
Yeah, I was thinking that, Adam, that hopefully the fact that he's by Star Spangled Banner, and hopefully they get a clear run with him, because there were a lot of issues with Van Dijk, that he'll be able to stay sound and actually be a proper horse as a 3-year-old. But right now, I mean, he's Group 1 class, surely.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's Group 1 class juvenile. Those kind of races at Newmarket at the end of the season, maybe the National Stakes, will be something to consider as well. I mean, he's not the fastest in this field, but what he does is he just lengthens, and those final 2 furlongs, he's miles better than these. Part of the reason I think with that RPR is kind of at that stage of the week, no one really understood how bad the track bias was in the Ascot home straight. Ryan Moore comes up the centre on his own. To do that with an inexperienced juvenile, and if you watch his debut back with True Love, you know, because that takes a long time to learn his job and what he's got to do. So he's still learning. There's loads more improvement to come. He was miles better than these, and I do agree with you in terms of, I think, you know, Group 1 companies where he'll ultimately end up. In terms of kind of where he sits among Coventry winners, I'd probably have him maybe 3 or 4 pounds below the very best, but certainly an above average winner. And, you know, he can only get better. If you're going to give me a pecking order, I think Aidan's got 1 better than him that we saw last week. But this lad is a serious performer at 6 furlongs. I think he'd probably get 7 as well. And you'd think just they should be able to have loads of fun with him. Look yet, although obviously we never know with the juveniles, but it doesn't look yet like there are too many at his level.
No, and more on that superstar. And you sent me some very interesting data about him in a second, Adam. But right now for Gstaad, George, all options open. Phoenix Stakes, probably at the Curragh, I would imagine next, although he did mention True Love for that as well. But it's a stallion-making race. So for all the fact that the filly could run in it, they'll more than likely let him roll there.
He can do what he wants. He can run wherever he wants. He won't get beat. He was, like what Adam said, the fact that Ryan sort of just kept to a straight line and just sort of ignored the other horses and let him do it on his own up the centre of the track. Like when he sort of ended up out in the middle on his own now, I was like, oh, that's going to be a problem now. And he sort of dug in and went again.
Yeah.
Like for such an inexperienced horse to do that, it's up there with one of the best juvenile performances I've seen at Royal Ascot for me. And like, it's worth saying, yeah, he beat True Love on debut. So I'm saying True Love had a run, and she had already split Lady of Man and Power Blue on was 2-5 for that race, and Gstaad beat her without a run. Like it was a massive performance. Then to come to Royal Ascot off the back of that, having just had 1 run, and basically did a breeze and ignored the other horses, and he was just that much better. It was massive. This. And I'd say it was my race of the week, as it was my wow moment of the week. Like what Fields of Gold did and everything was incredible. But this as a show of an animal's attitude and just everything, just for a baby, an absolute baby. I mean, forget these are. It's easy. You watch them race every day. If you deal with 2-year-olds and yearlings and that on a daily basis, this is, you know, they say, was it 3 horse years to a human year? This horse is a 6-year-old in human years, in horse years, and went out and did that without any help, without being running anywhere near the others. It took my breath away. This, I thought it was massive.
Okay, I think it's another horse that took Adam's breath away. I have a bet for the 2,000 guineas whose form will tie in with this race, but he didn't run in this race. He ran later in the week, and I think Laura's going to be salivating about him as well. But it's not Charles Darwin, who I suspect is the superstar that Adam Mills is most excited about.
Yeah, this was good beyond belief. I mean, I have to write a tipping column due Royal Ascot, and I thought, like, should I put Charles Darwin up? This thing's going to be short, and when you put up a short and you get beat, you get every bloke in his underpants in his back bedroom hurling abuse at you. I thought, no, I've got to tip this because, like, all the stride, everything said this thing's going to be a monster, and then he just goes and does that. I mean, the data I sent you earlier, Emmett, was like, if they're on different days. So before anyone like Simon Rowlands decides to point this out, I'll make the point. You can't compare different days because the track might be slightly different. We don't know how they've watered, but what we can say after allowing for that is if you look at the sectional times, Charles Darwin would have run the fastest furlong in 4 of the 5 furlongs of the King Charles III sprint. That's how fast this horse was. And not only is he that quick, he's got gate speed, so he's the only horse sub 14 seconds the opening furlong. And at the 2 furlong pole, when you watch the replay, you think, blimey, Ryan's in a bit of trouble here. They're coming to him. And then Charles Darwin he's rubbish. He's just filling up because he reaches his peak stride frequency in the penultimate furlong and he goes again. It's fastest winning time since his sire, No Name Ever. Just wow, like this is seriously quick, talented 2-year-old. He looks like a massive, great big colt, and this is off the charts. Now look, you don't know how the race would have panned out. It's never as simple as just overlaying one replay on top of the other. But we've just been talking about how relatively weak the sprint division is, and then something goes and runs a time like this. And it's one where you're like, okay, that's like, on the emails I get with spreadsheets, this one has green, 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 green all the way across the spreadsheet because it's just that quick. Phenomenal performance on the clock. And I think this is Aidan's best 2-year-old.
If they ran him in the Nunthorpe, would you make him favourite?
He'll be carrying the Mills money as long as he's not a stupid price in the Nunthorpe, because I don't think there's an older sprinter. Because what do they have to give? It's over a stone they have to give the juveniles. Yeah. He would. I'd certainly back him. I'd be quite happy to make him maybe 2-1 in a Nunthorpe because I just think there's no older sprinter that can give him a stone. And if occasion, he's just got so much. He's got everything: early speed, the ability to take a breather at halfway and then to kick again. They don't know which way he'd gone.
Well, your dog sounded like he was getting excited about this Charles Darwin as well, Laura. And Wayne Lordan could definitely do the weight. So, given the fact that Blackbeard was retired after his juvenile campaign, I know he had an injury, and they just decided, we'll pack him off to stud. He was going to be best as a 2-year-old. So maybe this fella is just going to be just like his brother, best as a juvenile. Why not roll him to a Nunthorpe?
Yeah, I think it was mentioned, Aidan said today it's still a maybe, but there's a lot of water under the bridge. They've got the morning on their minds as well. And he said July meeting over here as well wouldn't be, he's not against it. So, but yeah, what an exciting horse. Jesus. It'd be really interesting. I hope he does this year. I'd love to see what he can do next year, just with the pedigree in mind and that. Like, No Name Never is such a brilliant sire of 2-year-olds. He can obviously get some 3-year-olds, but we've seen so many good 2-year-olds not sort of go on, and progress at 3. So it'd be really interesting to see because, like Adam says, he's got that mind that Blackbeard definitely didn't have. He used to have his quirks and that. So yeah, look, he's got it all before him now, doesn't he? He was brilliant on the day. Nothing came close to him.
Is your dog drinking out of a bowl?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, what's your dog's name again?
Spinny. I didn't know if anyone could hear. She's an attention seeker. I don't know where she
You're
gets
thirsty, Spinny. We'll get you some ice cool water sent over to you, or maybe some Bulmers or something. Or nice vino.
Yeah. She likes Guinness.
Hey, there you go. Spinny. We're gonna get Guinness to send you a keg. and you can do what you want with it. Laura will have to obviously look after you properly, but that can be sorted out. Brought to you by Guinness on the final furlong. George, I know Gstaad is the one Gstaad is the one you're very excited about, but this fella's a whoosh job. Please do it. You sponsor the race. You see the standard of sprinter. There'll be no Lazzat. You've got nothing to beat. You will crush them. If Kingsgate Native can do it, you can do it. Crush your enemies, destroy them, and take back your sponsors' money. It'll all work out so nicely, Coolmore. Do it.
Yeah, we all like that sort of punchy campaigning, don't we? And I think if Aidan was ever going to do it, it might be when he's so deep in juvenile talent as he is now. He's got Albert Einstein still sat at home, waiting to come to the track.
He's got Italy. He's got Italy.
Exactly. If he truly believes that this is in his top 3 and it's that good, then yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you roll the big dice? Because you go, well, I've got 2 better ones at home. Doesn't necessarily matter if this one's campaign doesn't go perfect. Do you know what I mean? That'd be maybe the main argument in favour of doing that is, I've got a better one at home anyway. Which, with most trainers, you go, well, don't roll the big dice with your second, third best horse. But with Aidan, his top 3 are probably usually top 3 in the country, if not the world.
Yeah.
So there's an argument to it. Like, how often does he win classics with his second or third string? We'll give a shout to the third in this race, Sandal Song, who was sort of like bang up there all the way. And Charles Darwin's sort of gone away from him. Wise Approach has stayed on past him there, but actually maintained pace all the way to the line. It was just the better horses went away a bit. I think Up in Trip, that could be a nice horse for the future. And I would put was it Andab from the last race in the same boat as well. Stayed on very, very well late home. I can't add much to what you guys have said about Charles Darwin, but I would flag up that horse. Ran massive and actually ended up getting sent off a shorter price than the owner's apparent first string. So they knew something. They knew something, all right.
Yeah, I know Joseph's training his horses differently this year. The 2-year-olds specifically, they're quiet. So if one wins first time up, including one that run on Friday night, you need to really rate that horse quite highly. But geez, that was a tough week for Joseph. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the big handicap on the Tuesday, and then no winner. Oof. And they all ran well. Well, a lot of them did anyway. Tough week. Laura, you and I talked about this on Friday night. We knew very, very clearly. It was so obvious. It was so obvious to you weeks ago. It took me a while to catch up, Laura. But finally, as I'm sitting in the garden and going down through the form, I'm going, hang on a second. He's a Ulysses. He wins over 6 furlongs first time out. The Coolmore team think the world of that title roll. And it doesn't matter if they don't anyway. Because everything that was in behind has come out and won since, including the 10th finishing 3rd to Gstaad. This Humidity's an absolute machine. What man aren't throwing money around for fun? And they bought him. And we found out after the race that James Doyle sent a text to Oisin Murphy going, what do you think of Humidity? And the response he got was the rocket emoji. This fella will win the Guineas. He's 20-1. Aidan doesn't care about the Newmarket anymore. Forget it. Don't go near Albert Einstein at 8-1 for the 2,000 Guineas. Don't. You're being sucked in by the bookies. They're sucking you in. But Humidity will win it.
Yeah, that's a long way away, God. But he's I'd say they paid a lot of money for Humidity, and there he's gone and done it. But the things that have come out from it, everything in behind is won. So yeah, it's easy to say now, but we did say it before, so we're allowed to gloat about him. I was so excited to see him. He's a lovely horse. He's like his brother. I saw his brother in Dubai as well. They're both gorgeous big stamps of a horse. He'll have the Guineas, like he could be one of those, start off in a Guineas and end up in a Derby even. He's got loads of scope. He's I don't know where they're going to go with him next, but yeah, just the best horse in the race.
And Holloway Boy
he's got a big long stride as well.
Yeah, his brother didn't go forward, but he's already better than his brother. Like if you're winning over 6 furlongs as a Ulysses, that's we kind of spoke about it a little bit. I don't think there is a Ulysses that's won over 6 furlongs, and he did it first time out. So he already has more class than him. And for all that Holloway Boy was a good winner on debut of the Chesham, I'd say this fella's a little bit classier because that Stack horse looks serious. He ran a massive race on debut to be nailed by Italy on the line. Charlie's horse looks pretty nice. Aidan's horse Moments of Joy is obviously good. It looks good form.
Yeah, it looks good, and he kind of did it as easy as he liked as well, didn't he? And I think the time was good as well, and everyone was just happy with him. It was a good performance.
How good did he look on the data, Adam?
It looks all right. It's kind of hard to tell with the Chesham because you're going up to 7 furlongs. You're not really sure which horses are ready for the occasion. Treenmore, to my eye, just looked like a horse who just isn't mature enough yet, and it all looked like it happened a bit quick for him, and he was kind of out of his comfort zone and beaten really quickly. But really argue with Humidity, the time's not too bad at all. He finishes the race really well. You know, we all take the mickey a little bit out of Wafnan in terms of like this football manager approach, but actually they're some really good judges, and there's a few other people out there throwing money who would probably dream of the success Wafnan are having. And, you know, I mean, just as a quick stat for you, if you backed every Wafnan racing runner at Royal Ascot, pound each way, in the last 5 years, you've made £25.31 profit to those pound each way stakes. Like they're doing really well. They're 1.3 above the market expected. These people are serious judges. And if they looked at Humidity and went, this is the one for us, then they know what they're doing. And, it was obvious, Emmet, you're right. And he never really looked like getting beaten. It was a serious performance. One of a number of good rides from James Doyle. Would I back him for a Guineas? I don't know. How many times do you get your fingers burnt by backing horses in June for the Guineas in May? There's always the risk that we probably haven't seen 60% of the 2-year-old population yet. So who knows what else might come out. But right now, if you ran the Guineas tomorrow, you'd probably make him favourite, wouldn't you? Because it's a serious performance, and that's where we are right now.
Well, Aidan's horses won't be ready, even with all the firepower. They just won't be. We have to learn this now. Doesn't care about that race anymore. Doesn't matter. He's the winning most trainer in the history of the 2000 Guineas. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Ask it now. It's all about Ireland, France. Doesn't care about it. So unless Charlie can unearth something, I wouldn't be worried about anything. I think he'll win. He's 20s. Happy days. He's a 20-1 shot, and he's won at Royal Ascot. Albert Einstein has run once. Twice. He's 8-1. No, that's crazy. And I'm sure he's a machine, but no. George, it's the acknowledgement for Laura Joy. For Laura to come on the show and the Juvenile special and say, hey, yeah, by the way, that race at Newbury, Team Valor went off and bought, was it the third or fourth?
The fourth. And he won again. Before.
And he's won. He's come out and won. But more importantly, Team Valor bought him before he won that race. And they're shrewd judges. So they knew how good that race was, George. Laura told us weeks ago Humidity was going to win this. He was 6-1 the night before. Those Wathan horses were being smashed off the boards. The only one who wasn't was Lazzat, which was bizarre. Crimson Advocate, 25-1 into 13-2. Humidity backed off the boards as well. They know, George. They know this is a good horse.
Yeah, and with a view to the Guineas, it's worth mentioning, like we say, Gosden doesn't have him ready for the Guineas. Hayden doesn't have him ready for the Guineas. Who's flying in May every single year? Flying in April and in May. Who was it was literally all anyone was talking about. I think the first month and a half of the season was back anything Andrew Balding runs. So I can put you off it. It's probably a bit far out, but like I say, 20s. Is he going to do much to change it from 20 now and then? Like, bear in mind, I suppose anti-post markets aren't as generous as they used to be. He probably can. But he was second on my list for this, behind Tranmore. And I think you have to say Tranmore, like Adam was saying, he has underperformed. He's performed to a lower RPR than he did than winning his maiden. It got to a really tricky point like this, where you're looking at Tranmore at 5-4, you're like, horse in that race. But his horse is running bad. You want to be very, very sure before you're backing anything at 5-4 in a 2-year-old race at Royal Ascot anyway. It wouldn't be my sort of thing generally. And especially with the Appleby form, I went, I can't back him, but I can't back Humidity in case Tranmore does show up. So I ended up I had the second each way, who I thought took another massive step. Be a really nice horse, probably back at home for some probably similar level events, Group 2, Group 3 events. Obviously, it's the Chesham. He will get further. He looked like probably in need of further. But that's a horse from the race I would like to have on my team. And should we say Venetian Lace, the connection, very, very confident. for a tough enough race, and for a trainer who isn't probably as prolific Royal Ascot as his father was. There was a lot of confidence around that horse, and he did run well again. Probably ran on best of some of the ones in behind. Be interested to see what that horse does up in trip. But I think you've got to write it off for Tranmere. I hope at least 5 or 6 weeks for his next race. Let him get over it, and or even put him away. Because I think there's a nice horse in there with Tranmere, but you've got to be careful now that you don't completely blow his head.
His form is rubbish.
I know it is, but he beat them. He beat them so well.
I'd be very careful. I don't think he's any good.
I give him a chance to.
Yeah,
Manor beat them.
Is he not a horse for Dubai? He shapes to me like he would be one that they might give a bit of a break to and then send him out to Dubai. That was
and he come home a man as well. Like
that was my sort of. I wouldn't write him off. I don't think you can write him off on the back of that. It just looked to me like in the Newmarket run, he looked quite immature going up and down the dip. He looked like he wasn't ready. And probably on the back of that, when you then see him at Ascot, the occasion and the ground and the pace they went, it just all got him out of his zone. I don't think you can write him off that quickly for all that right now. I think there are much better juveniles.
Well, I'll put it this way. I don't think much of him. I don't think he's any good. But Louis Stewart was on TalkSport 2 with me on Saturday, and he had spoken to his close personal friend, William Buick, before he boarded his helicopter to get to Ascot. Some of us take Bentleys.
Say his helicopter. Do we think?
I'm guessing
it's more likely.
I'm guessing it's Sheikh Mohammed's helicopter. I mean, how the other half lived, dearie me, flying to Royal Ascot. Some crowd. Meanwhile, we're scrambling.
Sorry, how has Louis Stewart got a helicopter?
No, not Louis Stewart. Buick, obviously, for goodness sake.
Buick, sorry.
Does Jamie Spencer not have a helicopter?
The Murdoch team. Go, don't worry, Louis. We'll fly you in. That's good. Louis was in his backyard doing the radio show with me. That's what he was doing. But he'd spoken to Buick that morning, and Buick was unbelievably bullish about him. Unbelievably bullish. Like they do think an awful lot of the horse. I don't think he's any good. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You're keeping the faith. I'm not. What about the 2 fillies? Well, actually, sorry. Before we get to the 2 fillies, Havana Hurricane, George Gorman. High five. Keep it simple. Just follow George. You had an incredible week, and you were super bullish about this horse. Much to the frustration of Eve Johnson-Houghton, she might not be able to get the treble in this race, but she's won 2 of them, and she won the last ever running of it over 5 furlongs, and he was good.
Well, you say that this horse is qualified under the new rules as well, isn't he? So
yeah, but now we have to face a load of wooden bassets from Coolmore.
Yeah, true. Look, it was a tough watch again, wasn't it? I think it was absolutely flat out most of the way, and just finished off best of the rest. At least that gives you sort of a bit of leeway in what you do next, because I think sort of probably wants to go further now. I think we got away with it because there was a fast pace, and he was able to just stay on through some beaten horses. Having said that, I think Aziz Am's a nice horse. Rogue Legends is a decent horse. You just have to be happy for the trainer. Like I said, my main reason for following this horse all season was Eve Johnson-Houghton's horses don't win first time out over a downhill 5 furlongs. They just don't. Like they're trained to come on, and I think she said he was 2 bits short of work mentally before his first run, and he went and won, and he surprised her a bit. There was nothing to do. Some run, and he went and got the business done here. Where you go with him next? I said I'd go up in trip because he's going to get caught out. He got caught out at Epsom, which probably more to do than falling out the stalls. But eventually they're going to go so quick that he can't stay on. Like he's going to get burst somewhere at some point. But I'd definitely be looking at going up in trip sooner rather than later.
He's a class act. So is George. Great tip, George. Well done. Well done for keeping the faith. You got a good price as well. The 2 fillies, Venetian Sun she was great. And Carl Burke had told us on TalkSport 2 and on this show, of all the juveniles to follow, Venetian Sun is the one. She drifted out to 9-1 that morning. It was a mad price. And True Love's form had already been franked the day before, Adam, by Gestad. Lots of people decided that's enough. Buying money, and it was.
Well, it was for some people. I actually decided to lay True Love on a place, which probably shows what I know. I'm not in love with True Love at all. I just don't. I think everything went right on the right part of the track. The Wafnan filly set a perfect target. I don't think it's coincidence that Zelena's stride starts to shorten. That's the point Ryan Moore decides to kick. It's a good performance. I'm just not sold on it. Top speed is ranked 19th. Don't know, a bit suspect about that, but probably just because I'm bitter because I laid it and it won. But there you go. But Venetian Sun was very good. Venetian Sun, that was a serious performance. I think she's certainly one of the best fillies in the UK at the moment, and that run, although the placed horses were 66s and 40-1, and you might think, well, that raises a few questions. Actually, their form was all right. Awaken reversed the form with Gold Digger. Valentina had a bit of experience and had won a race at the Curragh, which is never that easy to do. So I think this form can be trusted quite well. I quite like Venetian Sun. Program sort of writes itself for her. But with True Love, although it might be pocket talking, there's just enough evidence from the data for me to be a little bit suspicious of the form.
Okay, so we'll see what Laura says. We might be taking on True Love next time out. Maybe. I have no interest in taking on Venetian Sun, though. Laura, the enthusiasm that Carl Burke had for that filly before her debut at Carlisle. So it was the York Dante meeting. I was interviewing him, and I said, the last time I asked you for a juvenile, you gave me elite status, who turned out to be pretty damn good. Do you have anything that we should be watching out for? Without hesitation. There was no mention of Selena. She never came up. Venetian Sun. This is a horse with a very bright future. Now we know why.
Yeah, she was really impressive, and only thanks to you, I put her in all the tipping competitions I was doing. So thank you for that. That was great. Got me out of a few holes. I wasn't doing very well, but yeah, she was just the best. There's not much else to say, and the comments afterwards were really interesting. Like that, she's been working with horses like Spycatcher and I think there was another good group horse mentioned. I can't think who it was, but and blowing them out the water. So yeah, very excited to see what she might do for the rest of the season. Yeah, she'll obviously have the Jubilee Park on her agenda, and at the moment she's the one to beat. I thought True Love was good. We talked about Lenny Lou, the American filly, which she also had a mad drift. She was out about 28-1, I think, in the morning race, which was a bit wild. Thought she ran really well. She ran a real game race for a filly so inexperienced coming over here. She had a hood. Don't like hoods, but it'd be nice to see her kind of stack up and maybe stay over here. Whether they're going to take her to the July meeting or not, and obviously a huge result for Charlie Clover with his Flowerhead in second behind True Love. That was big for a trainer in his first season.
Why are you not a fan of
hoods? The talking points. I just think a lot of the time they don't pick up in them. At the end, it can be great for settling them at the start, but then they just don't pick up when push comes to shove right at the end. So you see it more often than not.
Because it's blocking out the crowd noise.
Yeah, the crowd and everything the sound of other horses coming up, all of it. Yeah, just the whole thing. So, I liked Cardiff by the Seas run as well. She ran a great race too. Another nice filly going forward. It's quite impressive. I'd say. Well, actually, I need to mention as well, Venetian Sun's obviously by Starman, so it's big news for him to get an Ascot winner in his first crop, and also Cardiff by the Sea and the other St. Mark's filly that was
the one in the Chesham
Secret Adversary. In the Chesham, as out of court actually. But for him to have two finish second and fourth, that's also quite a big thing for him. I think he didn't break his maiden until August. I could be wrong with that, but I think it was sometime around then. So it's a good sign for him for what's to come. Yeah,
because you look at St. Mark's Basilica's progeny so far, and there's not many winners. But then you look at Cardiff by the Sea, Secret Adversary. It's like, oh, you've got some nice crops.
And he hasn't had many runners yet either, and what has ran, bar his very first runner actually finished last in France, but that was like in March. You were kind of thinking, what's going on here? But what has ran very well. So he's a stallion to keep an eye on anyway. I think he could be exciting.
Yeah, and there's a couple at Ballydoyle that Aidan O'Brien's been talking up as well, as if he needed more juvenile talent, George. Which of the two juvenile fillies were you most impressed with?
Which one? I'd have to say probably True Love. I would just touch on Charlie Clover as well there just for a second. He'd be well known to sort of people around my age who have worked in Newmarket. Like, he's been in and around the town a long time, just started training. This season he's had 41 runners, 5 winners, 78 grand in prize money, level stakes profit of £26.98. Currently runners to form of 60%, strike rate of 40% from only 5 runners, admittedly. In the past 2 weeks, he had a 33-1 winner at Pontefract, 100-1 second at Royal Ascot, a 16-1 winner at Newmarket. He's a trainer going places. He really is. And I think it's well worth flagging up on here. I ran into him on Thursday at Ascot, and he was just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, it's just such a humble bloke. There was a few of us that all used together, and I think 3 of them who were there are still going to the same pub now. And we're all sort of going, so what are you up to now? And we're like, well, you know what you're up to. You can't stop bloody trading with us. But yeah, it was very bizarre. Yeah, True Love, like the form was in the book. Probably the unluckiest maiden in all of England or Ireland coming into this. I mean, bumped into Lady a Man in, was it a listed race? Then go, we'll drop her down, we'll put her in a maiden. And then Aidan decides to run Stad against her. And for was it Wayne Lawton said she should have beaten Stad that day, which was probably a tip in itself. Myself, she was very much on the short list, but she went very short after Stad won. I think I left her off the tips on the day in the end, even though I backed her anti-post because it's not the sort of price I like to be messing around with 2-year-olds. Let's say they all take such big steps forward. And as for the other horse, which I got on here somewhere, yeah, Carl Burke told every man and his dog about this horse, hadn't he? I think he first mentioned it on the Nick Luck show, and then like went, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or something like that. And then by the end of the week, he had said it everywhere. And yeah, did any of us back it? No. I was really impressed by Fitzeller as well. Showed a really good attitude. Off the bridle a long way, and actually for a minute looked like reeling in the winner. I think it has to go up in trip like now. Like that's going to be a really nice horse. You don't want to sicken a filly like that, having her chase the pace in sprint races all the time. I think you want to be going up to 7 furlongs a mile sooner rather than later, or the attitude will start to go. But for the minute, that's also a really nice attitude, and I really want to have her on side going forward. Jamie Spencer tried to do very Jamie Spencer things on Gold Digger, and it looked like coming off for a brief minute. I don't understand going to Royal Ascot in a 6 furlong race and taking a pull out of the stalls. I really don't get it, isn't it? But Jesus, the fact that it even looked like working for a minute must mean this is a very good horse.
Oh,
you've got to have that in the tracker.
Yeah.
You've got to have her in the tracker.
Yeah, ignore that run. That's not her true running. She's a good horse. She's no Venetian Sun, but she's a good horse, and she'll win races. Okay, you've got a pick of Trinity College, Merchant, Amalok, Cameras, Noble Champion. Who do you want, Laura?
Oh, actually, on that King George, Merchant's got an entry in that. He'd be interesting.
Yeah, he's a Group 1 horse.
Yeah. Well, he's a group horse anyway. Whether we don't know yet, I suppose, if he's a Group 1 horse. But I suppose I've a bit of I can't remember the other ones you said now, because as soon as you said Merchant, I just decided on that one. But I like Merchant. I love a syndicate winning. Love syndicates winning and on the big stage like that. It's great. Great for Highclere. Great for Haggis. He's a shrewdie, and yeah, it was great.
He's so shrewd that when Highclere bought the horse, the syndicate manager's phone rang. I want that horse. Would you send that horse to me, please? That's how quickly he'd identified this one as a potential superstar. He's a group horse for sure, but I think he might be Group 1 class. That was good. Very good. I really like the way he came through the race as well to go and win the way he did. Adam, which one do you want? Trinity College, Amalok, Cameras, Noble Champion.
I will take Noble Champion for the Jersey Stakes. What I would just say very briefly about Merchant, there were 35 winners last week. We take something called run-out speed, which is 2 seconds after they cross the line, which horse is going the fastest. Merchant had the fastest run-out speed of any winner last week. That horse had loads left, which, considering the race he'd just been in, was seriously impressive. 37.1 mile an hour run-out speed. That's a group horse masquerading in a lower grade race. You know, whether he's good enough to win the King George next time or whether they roll the dice, who knows? But the Jersey Stakes is just... I took it because I just felt it's a little bit of a mess, the Jersey Stakes. Noble Champion's a nice horse and shouldn't probably have been that price, but at the same time, I'm not entirely convinced with how things played out on Saturday. And in particular, it seemed obvious for the rest of the week that the Standside Rail was a place to be. And then we get to Saturday and all the jockeys go, maybe it's not. Now, either they know something that the rest of us don't.
And on Friday.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seemed bloody up. But then horses still ran quite good races on the stands I ran, so it's a bit messy. But Noble Champion did really well for stall 4. But just that race, stall 4 beat stall 3, beat stall 6, beat stall 5. And it was kind of like that side of the track. There are a few in there to upgrade. Now, Emmet has rubbished Seagulls 11 on this podcast already. But you need to just bear in mind that Seagulls 11 is going to improve because he's had the cruelest cut of all. And the reason is that Hugo Palmer has unbelievable stats with first-time geldings. And Hugo Palmer's stats with 1.27 above expected, pound each way stake returns £59.45. If you're a colt in Hugo Palmer's yard and you see him smiling at you, run, because you know what he's going to do. Seagulls 11 is one, just to note. He was drawn 15, raced on the wrong side, made good ground.
Oh, no, don't tell me I have to put him back in the tracker. Don't.
Oh, he's got to go back and give him one more chance.
Oh,
he's a reformed character, Emmet. Reformed character, and his trainer knows what to do there. But this race just felt a little bit messy. As much as I like Noble Champion, it was a great story for Ed Walker and Kieran Schumacher. He's won by 3 1/4 lengths, and I think he's a little bit flattered by where he was on the track and the way the race panned out. I certainly think the likes of Comanche Brave and Removes could reverse the form if it comes around again and they get a better crack of the whip on the track bias. But yeah, my main note from the jersey was Seagulls 11, because the gelding operation means he ran a lot better than it looked. He was the only horse to be drawn in the high numbers to make any progress in the final 2 furlongs. Put him in one more time, Emmet. He might just give you some money back.
Okay, here was my tracker note for Noble Champion. Visually impressive winner on TalkSport 2 in a race you covered. And second start in a first-time tongue-tie. Green, but showed ability on debut at Newmarket. Travelled as well as anything, and connections backed him. They think a lot of him. He's a half-brother to Pogo. He'll win a big race. Not a cent. Not 1 cent on him. And I was presenting. So that was fun. Congratulations to Ed Walker and Kieran Schumacher. Oh, well done. What a great story. What a clown I am. And I'd back Seagulls 11, so that's why he'd come out of the tracker, but now he's gone back in, so oh no. George, Trinity College, Amalok, or Cammers?
Absolutely Amalok. I think this was really impressive. Like, the second horse was back like the feet was out of the question. I think Johnny Mercer was very sweet on it on all the racing channels. And he was in front and aged too soon. I think he was in front 2 furlongs out. He had to, because he had to go and take on Galveston. He's done very well to hang on. Like, he was a short price favourite, and people go, he's only been beat 3/4 length. But first of all, someone flagged to me that some of the yard weren't firing, and it was really hard to really find it in the stats. The only one I can see that really sort of justifies it. He's had 3 winning favourites of his last 10, that started favourite, including this lad. The other 2 were, I think, 11-4 and 10-11 on, and they both won by a head. Like, a lot of these fancy horses really aren't firing. I think they thought Kirat would run massive last week. He finished 27th. There's something not quite right. Some of them are running their races and some of them aren't. So it's not immediately obvious. You look at the strike rate and the runners to form. But you look through it, there are some massive underperformers in there. And this horse has gone out, like, especially at Royal Ascot, he ended up walking away with 2 winners, didn't he? So it wasn't too bad a week. But this horse, if you take that into account, he's run a career best. He's very untried still. He's in all the big races. All of his form seems to stack up well. This might be one for the King George. If Fiala in better form come then, especially now that he's done it on good to firm ground over the course and distance. I'm really keen on this horse. I think the fact that they've missed the Derby with him, maybe they thought the owners had a better one for the Derby. I don't know, but I think it will stand to this horse in his long-term development that he didn't go to the Derby, and he's definitely a Group 1 horse for the future.
So his options are going to be somewhat limited given the fact that he's a gelding, but the fact that they still had him entered in the Eclipse, that was kind of telling you, I took him on like a fool. But he's a proper horse. He's a proper horse, George. I'll just briefly mention Trinity College then. Sorry to the connections of Cammers. He's a very, very nice horse. But by Dubawi out of a dual 1,000 guineas winner by Galileo, maturing very nicely, given an aggressive ride. They're talking about the American Derby at what's the name of that track again, Adam?
Kentucky Downs, is it? The one that's the only one.
Yeah, Bellum Justin won it last year.
Yeah.
I think he's better than that. But if he runs, he'll win. He's definitely Group 2 class, and he's probably Group 1 class. That was a really smart performance. And Laura's right. The Syed bin Saror horse ran a Tornado Alert. He ran a massive race. I still think the Guineas is rubbish, but he's a good horse. He's a very good horse. And that horse will give him an excuse to once again go easy money on ITV at some point, Saeed. Okay, what was your standout performer of the week, Laura?
Oh, God. You've thrown that at me. Probably on actual horse, the best horse to take out of it, Field of Gold, but my highlight of the week was Cercene, the Coronation. That was brilliant. I know the Murphys well, and yeah, it's great. Just brilliant.
Irish Oaks next. She's going to be supplemented.
Yeah, that just popped up while we were talking, didn't it? A supplementary entry, yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, on pedigree, well, actually, she's an acclamation mare, isn't she? That's quite a fast family. That's that prize exhibit, the Eve Johnson Houghton's family history. Not sure about that actually, but look, we might question them.
You're leaning on the Australia angle to get her over the line.
Yeah, but yeah, they're not as slow as people think. They're not out now. They're not necessarily mile and a half horses. The mare can have a big say in whether they properly stay or not. There was a very good filly Joseph O'Brien had. They ran her in the Oaks. She was a Group 3 winner. What was her name? She was from that really good family of Santa Barbara, half sister Santa Barbara. She didn't stay, and you would have thought on her pedigree.
Take the long way home.
That's the dam. No, it was a couple of years ago. God, what was her name? Or was it her? Anyway, she didn't stay. The point being, they tried her over a mile and a half. She didn't stay, and everyone thought, oh, but she's by Australia. I know she has to. Same as Dancing Gemini. Everyone thinks, oh, he's out of an Australia. Mary's by Camelot. It's not that simple. I don't think. Anyway, in my studies.
Okay. There's only one Oaks. There's only one Oaks, and you have no idea what Minnie Hawk is going to do on the day. But I think she's going to probably win that race. I wouldn't be surprised if Garden of Eden rocked up there. Although they're talking about other races for her potentially. But once those Ballydoyle fillies start rolling, you have no idea where the improvement's going to stop. Adam, your highlight of the week?
Well, I think it's a horse we haven't mentioned, which is Karma's. This horse only made its debut at Ballinrobe 8 weeks ago, and it's gone Ballinrobe maiden, Navan listed race, Royal Ascot winner. 14-1 for the St. Ledger feels a little bit wrong.
14s?
Yeah, I looked this morning, it's 14s. I just thought I don't know if they're planning on going this.
Yeah, they are.
We said when we spoke last week that the Queen's Vase probably wasn't the greatest race, and it probably wasn't. But this horse has done nothing wrong, stayed on forever, really hit the line well. Yeah, kind of like a left field one perhaps, but maybe just a little bit under the radar because of we haven't really heard of this horse. I mean, 2 months ago, it made its debut, and here we are now, 3 from 3, not done anything wrong. Aren't too many dangers over the 1 mile 6 trip, possibly with the exception of Lambourne if they just try to stretch him out. So certainly interesting. The other one I will just give a very quick mention to is on the Sunday before Royal Ascot was the Prix de Diane. That was won by Francis Henri Graffard. First, third and fourth he had, but his winner, Jazora, looks like good ground is the making of her. And she was very impressive under Christophe Soumillon. I'd be pretty surprised if there aren't more Group 1s to be won with her. But my main take from Ascot would be Karma's, I think. If I could be certain that Paddy Toomey's team and they're going to go to the Ledger, then I would definitely take that 14s.
I'm sure I saw this morning when I was waiting for the car to be serviced that that was what they wanted to do. Was aim him at the St. Ledger. I'm sure that's what I read. I'd be amazed if they didn't. Kew Gardens did the double. Eldor Alderov did the double. Illinois came close.
He reminds me a little bit of the horse who won the St. Ledger for Laura Mongan, which I think was called Harbour Law.
Yeah.
He won at Royal Ascot and just kept improving and just sort of underestimated because he wasn't part of sort of the traditional kind of Ballydoyle St. Ledger brigade, but from a different yard. And I think Karma's would be half the price if he was trained with Aidan O'Brien. So that kind of that just made a bit of appeal to me. Just looking right now, if you're lucky enough to be able to bet with Denise, you can get 14 on the St. Ledger.
Didn't Leading Light do the double as well? That's a proper race, but now that it's a mile 6 race, it's a proper prep for the St. Ledger. I like that a lot. George.
Yeah, I'd say on that, Karma's, like, they're obviously a very shrewd operation, and if you hadn't backed it, like myself, after they'd gone 2 furlongs, you're looking at the jockey's body language and going, geez, they think this is a good thing.
Yeah.
The way he rode it was like, it will not get beat. Suppose for me, you've got, of the older horse brigade, Trawlerman was fantastic to see him get his Gold Cup finally. And I'd say the ratings say that he's getting better. And I said before the race, the ratings say he's at his best right now. Like, it's not a case of, Kyprios has gone, so he's finally won a Gold Cup. All of the ratings and everything told you he'd run his 3 best RPRs in the previous 20 months. It shows that he is getting better as a 7-year-old. And in terms of the newbies who were just getting to know it was Stad. Like, that was, I was going to say heart for one, head for the other, but it was heart for Stad as well. Because if you work with young horses, see a baby go and do something like that, you're just like, wow. Like, it's that one even if it doesn't make you a little bit emotional, you've not done enough work with young horses to go like, that's someone's baby. Like, that's someone's like arrived as an unnamed fat little pony a few months ago, and now it's out there doing man's work on the biggest stage of all. Like, that is, I can't imagine what horse and seeing him win that race in the manner that he won it on his own. You've just got to see what these 2-year-olds look like when they show up, and like the fact that they can be doing that a few months later is incredible.
He's also the first 2-year-old that Ryan Moore rode this year. That would have been useful info for us to have. Very easy to say Field of Gold. He's a machine, obviously. Very easy to say Charles Darwin. He's another machine. Run him in the Nunthorpe, lads. Do it, lads. Rebels Romance. It's not even close. It's not a Group 1. I don't care. It was a Group 1 performance. What a machine. What a legend. What a hero. Love him. Laura, where is the next piece of content going to be from you for European Breeders' Fund, or when is it coming out? Breeders' Fund? What the hell?
News. Yeah. Well, I've written a potentially controversial piece today about the Windsor Castle changes, so that will be out tonight at some point. Yeah.
How controversial?
So we'll see. I have no job tomorrow, so
wait a second. How controversial, Laura?
Jesus.
You'll have to read it.
on a scale of 1 to Piers Morgan, how controversial?
Eve Johnson Houghton's probably going to invite me for dinner and to every function she ever has from forevermore. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get the popcorn out and have Siri read that later on. I'm not even going to read. Just so I can be like sitting back listening to it like it's gossip, going, oh, she said what? Yeah. That's going to be gold. All right. European Breeders News, EBN on X. EBN. Get that European Bloodstock News. Obviously, Jesus Christ. My brain. It no work good. EBN. And Laura Joy is on X is Laura Joy 01. Lydia Hislop, that's at Laura Joy 01. That's where you can follow Laura to get that article.
She could be called.
And we love Lydia, but I can't wait to read that article or have Siri dictate it to us. Adam?
Well, mine's nowhere near as exciting now. I don't want to talk about it, but no, it's not controversial. But there's a review of kind of some of the Group 1s from Ascot. There's also a little review of Aiden's 2-year-olds, kind of looking at the data of his 3 winners, how they compare with past winners, and where I think they sit. But we've covered a lot of that on this podcast. And then hopefully we'll get some time this week to do some French racing, because I haven't done any of that for the last 2 weeks. So we'll have a little review of Paris Longchamp.
Nice. Lots to go over. At GG Banker on X as well. You can read all that content on the At The Races website. George, are you with us on Thursday?
I absolutely can be.
Excellent. Because we're going to crack and nail the Irish Derby at the Curragh.
Yeah.
We'll
get that done. I'm just going to have a few days off form study for a little bit. I think it was on the Friday. I thought to myself, what's the 5 o'clock? What race is the 5 o'clock? And in my head, in Times New Roman, 5 o'clock, Sandringham Stakes, 1 mile handicap appeared in my head in Times New Roman in a Google Doc format. And I went, I've been on the computer too much this week.
That's not good. That's not good. I couldn't do anything yesterday, Sunday. I literally could not do it. I made some salmon. That was it. That was all I could do. And brain was just completely fried with, I know you're talking about horse racing. It's not like it's difficult work. It's just, people do a lot. People are out there saving lives, like doing actual things that matter. I was just drained, completely drained. And yet I rewatched all of Royal Ascot on Sky. That was what my Sunday was. Just rewatching Jim McGrath's insightful analysis and Jamie Lynch and Alex. They did a great job, by the way. I didn't see any of ITV. I don't know what I saw people say nice things about it, but Sky's coverage was great. Their flowers are due there. That was excellent stuff. All right, that's it. From Laura Joy, from Adam Mills, from George Gorman, from Gary Wiltshire, and from me, Emmet Kennedy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the engagement during Royal Ascot. It was mega. It was unbelievable. We were crushing shows that you would think we wouldn't be. But we were. So that was fantastic. Thank you for helping out. Thank you for supporting. If you haven't liked this already, please do. Hit the button. It's free. Just got to click that. It helps. From Laura, from George, from Adam, from me. We'll talk to you again very, very soon on the Final Furlong podcast. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.
In horse racing, every furlong matters and every episode counts. So stay ahead of the field by hitting subscribe to the Final Furlong podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. It's free and it gets you one step closer to the winner's enclosure. Subscribe to the Final Furlong podcast and join us on the gravy train.